Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the January 25th Franklin Conservation Commission meeting. I'm going to bring this meeting into order. This Conservation Commission meeting is available to be attended in person and via the Zoom platform. In an effort to ensure citizen engagement and comply with open meeting law regulations, citizens will be able to dial into the meeting using the provided phone number on the agenda, or citizens can participate by copying the link on the agenda. You can copy and paste the link or call the phone number at 929-205-6099. And the meeting number is 879-5958-7361. If you're having trouble accessing through the link, please call on your phone and use *6 to toggle between mute and unmute and *9 to raise your hand. If you do wish to attend in person, the meeting is being held in the council chambers on the second floor of the municipal building. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring, a quick roll call. Richard?
Present.
And Jeff?
Present. Mark? Present.
Mike Hagan present.
Jeff Milne, present.
Michael Ryan, present.
Thank you. And we have Roger Trahan is not with us tonight.
He's on Zoom.
Oh, sorry, Roger. Roger, you on Zoom?
Let's see.
Okay.
If he's like me, he's back there beating on his computer saying, where is it?
We will confirm Roger's attendance as we go on then. So with that, I'm going to bring our first public hearing open. I'll open up the ANRAD for One Paddock Lane. Do I have anyone here from One Paddock Lane? Or anyone online?
Yes, this is Mitch Maslanka with Goddard Consulting. I'm the
Hi,
wetland
Mitch.
scientist representing the applicant this evening.
How are you, Mitch?
Just wanted to give the commission a brief update. We've been waiting for the snow to melt to do a site visit with FRECA and with the peer review members. So now that the snow appears to have melted today, we can probably set up a site visit for next week if FRECA and the peer review team, Jonathan Nero, I believe, if they'd like to set one up today.
I'm pretty flexible, so John, did you have availability next week?
Yes, I do. Could I possibly send an email out
Yeah.
just after the meeting so I can look through my calendar?
Yeah,
Yeah, totally.
I can make something work for next week. I'm just not sure which day yet.
sounds good.
Awesome.
Thanks, all.
Yep,
And,
so-
oh, go ahead, Mitch.
Yep, with that being the only update, we'd be requesting a continuance to the next meeting, and if we have a site visit next week, hopefully that'll settle everything so that we can discuss at the next hearing in a few weeks.
That sounds great. I do know we've had a few calls and questions from neighboring properties, so I would just encourage that. I'm happy to see that you guys are looking to schedule next week, and the earlier we can get that in so we can have more info for the next meeting, the better. And John, I know you have a busy schedule, so appreciate you making that work for us.
No problem.
All right. Is there any comments or questions from the public for One Paddock Lane? All right. With that, I will take a motion to continue the ANRAD for One Paddock Lane.
Madam Chairman, I have a motion to continue the ANRAD hearing for One Paddock Lane.
Second.
Awesome. That's to February 8th at 7:01 p.m.
Great,
How do you vote?
thank you very much.
Sorry, Richard, how do you vote on that one?
Vote to continue.
Vote to continue.
Vote to continue.
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 Wonderful. And
Continue.
thanks, Roger. So we do have Roger Trahan present on Zoom here. So we are continued for the ANRAD for One Paddock Lane to February 8th at 7:01 p.m. Thanks, Mitch.
Great, thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. With that, we're going to open the NOI for 15 Liberty Way, please. Is there anyone here from 15 Liberty? No.
Yes, I am here from representing the applicant for 15 Liberty. There was a bit of a conflict between the peer review under planning board and peer review under Concom. So the engineer was working on kind of straightening some of those things out. I don't really have an update for you, so I'd like to ask to continue, please.
Sure. Rick Lai, anything from your end? No. right,
Is it, well, actually, I did have a question. Is it relating to stormwater?
Mostly, yeah.
okay.
Makes sense.
Sounds good. Then we will just wait to hear, hopefully an update for the next meeting then, once that's sorted out. Any comments or questions from the commission?
Good.
All right, and any comments or questions from the public? All right, with that, I'll take a motion to continue the NOI to 15, for 15 Liberty Way, please.
Give you a motion to continue the NOI for 15 Liberty Way to February 8th at 7:02. Second.
Wait, and
Vote to
Richard?
continue.
Vote to continue.
Vote to continue.
Continue?
All right, the NOI for 15 Liberty Way. Oh, sorry, Roger, thank you. The NOI for 15 Liberty Way is continued to February 8th at 7:02 PM. All right, and I will open up the ANRAD for 124, 126 Grove Street. Is there anyone here from 120? Yeah.
Good evening, my name is Nicole Hayes. I'm a professional wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting. Here before you for an ANRAD to confirm the wetland resources located on the site. The site is 124, 126 Grove Street. Do we have this on the screen?
Yeah. We would have it on the screen, Tyler. He's gotta do multiple things here for a second.
Okay, so, I did color this handheld plan. It didn't bring this plan on the screen. I just wanna go over a few areas with you. So this ANRAD on this site is to confirm the wetland resource areas. There are, bordering vegetated wetlands within the site.
He's all here. Okay. Thank you, Tyler.
Great. Thank you. So the resources on the site consist of bordering vegetated wetland, which is located in this area. We also have an intermittent stream right in this area, flows through here and out, and then through here. Beta Consulting was hired as peer review to look at all the resources on the site. The only area which they asked us to reevaluate is this area right in here, in which we bumped out this area per their recommendations and the fact that there was a little bit of vegetation, wetland vegetation upgrading of the wetland line with some hydrology. So we did bump out the wetland here. Those were the only flags that Beta requested that we move. There was a few plan changes that we needed to make, which we also made. One of the biggest concerns with this ANRAD was to ask the commission whether or not the stormwater basins on site, there's a stormwater basin here, here, and also in the front here. Whether the stormwater basins would be jurisdictional under the state or Franklin Wetlands Protection Bylaw. According to your bylaw, any area, even if it's man-made, as long as it has 50% or more wetland vegetation and wetland soils, it is jurisdictional under your bylaw. And under that assumption, we looked at the stormwater basins. We've done multiple studies. All those reports were provided to the commission previously. And in the basin, Basin 1 is located out here. It's mostly all rocks. There isn't hydric soils or vegetation, and therefore Basin 1 was not considered to be jurisdictional under the act or the bylaw. One of our first reports, we talk about how the stormwater basins on the site were approved with order of conditions, and therefore, due to the year that they were approved prior to 1996, they wouldn't be under the jurisdiction of the state. However, we do agree, because parts of Stormwater Basin 2 and 3 do have 50% or more wetland vegetation and hydric soils, there are areas of Basin 2 and 3 which fall under the local bylaw jurisdiction. And I've outlined them here in green, here, and then there's 2 sections here and here. This area right in here is 7,540 square feet. And this area is 3,610 square feet and 1,660 square feet. So that's what we were looking to have the commission and peer review confirm. We got a peer review letter back from Beta on January 23rd, in which they agree that the stormwater basins on site would not be jurisdictional under the state. And after many site visits, reports, and review, Beta agrees with us that these areas outlined in green within Basin 2 and 3 would be jurisdictional under the bylaw. Since we're in agreement with peer review about the resources on the site, we are asking the commission to issue an ORAD. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Brooke, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, just that, those basins, we all are all in agreement. You know, John and I had looked at it independently. I met with the applicant prior to them filing. These areas match up with what I had seen when I initially went out. To that point, you know, this information was submitted within our week time frame, so I have not had time to draft the ORAD.
Yeah.
So I would recommend one more continuance so I can draft the ORAD within the next 2 weeks, and would recommend approval at our February 8th meeting.
That sounds great. John, was there anything else that John?
I don't think so.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
Seems pretty straightforward.
Yep.
All right, and Nicole, does it suit for you if we go ahead and continue to the next, so Preco, I can have time to draft that ORAD, and we'll go ahead and
Yes.
get that for next meeting then?
Yes,
Great.
please.
All right, well, any comments or questions from the public as well for 124, 126 Grove Street? All right, well, with that, I will take a motion to continue 124, 126 Grove Street.
Give you a motion to continue the ANRAD for 124, 126 Grove Street to February 8th, 7:04 p.m.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Jeff.
Vote to approve. To continue, rather.
Continue.
Approve
Vote
to
to
continue.
Vote to continue.
Continue.
Continue?
Roger?
Continue, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Thanks, Roger.
Thanks, Roger. Appreciate it. All right, so the ANRAD for
Thanks,
124,
Nicole.
126 Grove Street is continued to February 8th at 7:04 PM.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
Nicole.
much.
Appreciate the presentation. All right, and that is Tri-County, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish the meeting and jump in.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. All right. With that, we are going to open up the ANRAD on Tri-County Vocational Technical High School. Do we have anybody here from Tri-County? Nope.
No, the applicant did request a continuance, if I
Okay.
may. And then we do have a site visit scheduled next Tuesday.
Oh,
So
good.
we are plugging along.
Okay. Anything from the commission on that? All good? Anybody from the audience or publicly out on Zoom? All right, we will take a motion to continue the ANRAD on Tri-County.
Give you a motion to continue the ANRAD on Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical High School to January 25th at 7:05 PM.
Tyler?
All right,
Vote to continue.
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 vote to continue. Roger?
Continue.
All right, great.
So
Thanks.
far, so good.
It's a real curveball there.
Wasn't expecting quick. Thanks, guys. All right, with that, I will open up the NOI for 0 Bent Street. Thanks, Chris.
How you doing, Chris?
For the recommendation, Chris Lucas with Lucas Environmental, professional wetland scientist and certified soil scientist. Should have Mr. Kelleher on the call tonight, and Ben Messersmith, engineer with Proterra Design Group. Not sure if Steve's on there or not. If he is, the applicant.
Yes, yeah.
Didn't expect you to move so fast with that last one.
Nor did I.
We're effective tonight,
I
Chris.
know.
This is a good spot.
Perfect.
Pull this back so I can see it from here. That's the work.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
oh, yeah.
Thank you, appreciate your patience. Okay, so since the last hearing, the applicant spent the time, most of the time about getting the survey done for the trees on the site for the local requirements. Proterra has revised the plan set, it's been submitted, I understand Beta's reviewed it. Just briefly go through some of that, some of the outstanding issues. The major things that were done, utilities, just to refresh everyone, Bent Street's located to the south, the north. Access road comes into the site, hooks around, we have the proposed cell tower located back here. There's a wetland along Bent Street. We have the 100-foot buffer zone extending through here. The wetland, generally we're surrounded by wetlands on the site. There's a wetland down to the west along the property boundary. There are wetlands further to the south through this portion of the parcel, and there's a wetland right along the edge of the parcel to the east. This work is all located outside the 100-foot buffer zone. There's some minor work for the stormwater improvements here, and obviously we have to cross into the site. This is the only access into the site. Originally, we were proposing access down through this wetland adjacent to a potential vernal pool. This is a much better design. Based on comments from the commission and Beta and July, the utilities have been relocated from the east side to the west side. So we pulled them away from the wetland located here. We've also proposed a row of screening along this portion here. We originally proposed arborvitae. I understand the commission doesn't want that. So we just have a note here that this will be planted with the species to be determined later. We just recommend a condition that it's to be approved by staff prior to construction. Use some type of evergreen planting that would not be arborvitae, maybe a spruce or fir or something. And with that, those were the major changes that were made. We understand Beta has reviewed this, and just to briefly go through, I'm just going to focus on the points where they still had some comments and concerns. I think we've adequately addressed everything else. I know they had a comment on number A3, and this was for the commission to discuss about having the entire site shown. There was a question about this portion of the site not being shown on the plans. I think for what we've done here, sheet A1 is appropriate. We showed the entire site, we show all the wetlands on this parcel. So we do have all the resource shown. We think that adequately addresses that for the commission's consideration, because we do know you like to see the entire site. So obviously it doesn't show topography, but we show all the wetland resource areas on the property. They also had a comment on the following page. The response was Beta 2. This was a comment about the 25-foot buffer zone near Bent Street. They suggested a mitigation plan for work within the 25-foot. It's roughly 1,200 square feet. The applicant has no problem with that. We would just suggest a condition to the board that a planting plan be submitted for approval prior to construction. It's a small area, we can put some shrubs, and, more of a wildlife mix or something in there. I think that would be appropriate, so the applicant has no objection to doing it along this eastern edge and this portion here. Obviously, we would plant around the stormwater riprap outfall there, but we think that would be more than appropriate to address that. On the bottom page, they had a comment on W5, and this was regarding erosion controls. The best management guidebook noted straw wattles. The applicant has no objection to removing those and using the silt socks as suggested by Beta. So again, we would just suggest a condition to that effect that only silt sock be used to remove straw wattles. No objection there. Comment W7 was regarding the, again, this was related to the same one about the buffer zone having a restoration plan. Again, we have no issue, as I've stated, so we just request that be a condition. Comment SW1 under the Mass DEP stormwater standards. There was a question about the subdrain system around the tower's concrete footing and the intended use, and Beta has concerns about the treatment of this. We just want to be clear, and Ben can get more into detail on this. It's not so much a subdrain for stormwater, it's a foundation drain. There's no requirement in stormwater management regulations to treat that. And in fact, it would be more of a concern to treat it because if the basin filled up, it could backfill in there and create a potential impact to the foundation. So it's really just meant to be as a foundation drain. Ben can elaborate more on that if you have any questions on it. But it's not, foundation drains are not required to be part of the stormwater treatment drain. Comment SW6 was related to the discharge. This was so let's get my bearings on this one. Okay. Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this was a comment related to the outfall here. Beta is recommending we take this outfall and create a pipe underneath the road, discharge to this area, so it'll run along here and then discharge on this side of the wetlands. There's no specific requirement to do so. This just appears to be a preference from Beta. Our concern is you're not directing water towards abutting properties. We prefer not to do that. We think the appropriate location is where we have it, and we're discharging outside the 100-foot buffer zone. So it's not like we're in immediate proximity to the wetlands, so we do feel that this is appropriately
I would
sited,
agree with that.
particularly to be a good neighbor to the abutting properties. It's not good practice to discharge water to a neighboring property if you can avoid it, and we can here. So we do feel that this is appropriately set. And again, Ben's here to answer any questions Beta or the commission may have on that. SW9, this is related specifically to stormwater in this vicinity for the tower itself. We have a proposed basin with an outlet pipe and a riprap spreader. This work is located just inside the 100-foot buffer zone to this wetland. In this wetland, we have delineated a limit of a potential vernal pool. It may be certifiable. There were egg masses found. We haven't done a full vernal pool survey. Beta's comment on this was that this should involve additional stormwater treatment because they're considering the entire wetland an ORW. Per the regulations, and we cited the reference here, potential vernal pools do not receive protection under the Wetlands Protection Act. At this time, it is a potential vernal pool. The applicant is willing as a condition to go out and certify it if need be, but as at this time, it's not certified. It is a PDP. The regulations are explicit on that. If it's a PDP, it doesn't require the pretreatment. I'd also like to add a few points to that. That one, the end of this pipe is 390 linear feet from the vernal pool. I think that's more than sufficiently far to say it's not a direct discharge. The regulations note that a direct discharge.
Chris,
would
I'm
be
sorry, 390 feet from,
The edge of the vernal pool.
oh, okay,
It's approximately 90 to 95 feet from the edge of the wetland.
okay.
A certified vernal pool becomes an outstanding resource water as a Class B water. The regulations under the 314 CMR 9, the surface water quality standards, and I have a copy here, explicitly state that vernal pools are designated Class B outstanding resource waters. The regs go on further, say they have to be certified. All wetlands bordering other Class B waters are designated as outstanding resource waters. So our opinion is this wetland itself would be the ORW, the vernal pool. That being said, we don't have a direct discharge. Arguably, this isn't even a discharge because we're 90+ feet away from the wetland itself. Furthermore, if we were to do additional treatment, we're gonna have to clear more trees in the buffer zone. We don't feel it's necessary here. Number one, we don't believe it's required. Number two, the distance is pretty significant from the wetland. If we were 5–10 feet away, it's a gray area, maybe we should treat it, but Mass DEP considers it a discharge if it's directly touching the wetland and we're not. We're pretty far back. We're not even 50 feet. I'd also like you to consider too, this is a pretty small project. You know, most house projects you see likely have more disturbance than this, and they don't have any stormwater. So we believe the stormwater is more than appropriate for this site. We understand we have to do it because it's a commercial development, but considering the size of this, if this was a house, there'd be a lot more lawn clearing, disturbance, and there'd be no stormwater here. So other than subject to the regulations. So we believe the stormwater as designed here is more than appropriate for multiple reasons. And the final comment Beta had was on the O&M plan, and we would just agree that a special condition would be appropriate to make sure it's signed. So other than that, happy to answer any questions the commission, Beta, staff have on this. We've got the team here. Hope that the board may consider conditions for the remaining items.
Typically, I know that the peer review just got submitted yesterday,
Yeah.
and you're still reviewing. Do you have any comments at this time?
I don't. I have suggestions that I would recommend between the commission, the applicant, based on abutter comments, that perhaps following down some passive stormwater mitigation might be a happy medium. For example, sedges, they pick up a lot. You know, I fall back on utilizing what we have. You wouldn't need to kill your trees to plant sedges. So maybe there are some small, albeit, but passive ways that, you know, we can amend the relationship between the applicant and abutters surrounding stormwater.
No, it sounds
Clever
pretty good to me.
engineering.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think, you know, from my biggest concern, that's absolutely it as well, is just the, you know, the abutters' concerns and the amount of water that's in that site, and just making sure that we're really hitting the mark on stormwater management for this site to make sure that, we're not adding any more to their troubles than they're already having.
If we're doing anything, we're probably helping it out.
Yeah, I mean,
If you've driven by that site.
I would agree. You know, I think the two stormwater issues are related here. The pretreatment is a total suspended solid requirement. This is a passive use. This is gonna have way less volume of traffic than, you know, a residential home.
Yeah.
So we're not concerned about that here. So as far, and that really doesn't impact the volume of water leaving. It's more sediment issues, so that would have no bearing on the abutting property and water. The other comment, directing water here, we are concerned about. We do think that would have a more adverse effect on the neighbors. Not that it would have an adverse effect, but it would be more risk to it, I think. I think this is a better location to protect the neighbors. We're discharging away from their property, not towards them.
Right. You got something right through the road there that's going to allow the water that's terrorizing this poor man right here to get out of there and get down the side of the road and go down Bent Street.
Right. There's a swale here that conveys and come down here towards the road and away from, towards the wetland, away from their property.
And the plantings that we're looking at doing along the driveway there, you think that will help the situation some? Or
With
just more like
stormwater?
erosion? Yeah.
I mean, it can, depending on how you design it. You could be clever with it. Yeah. You could make it a hedgerow. At least it would stop a storm surge.
Yeah.
It would help hold the swale. Okay. Chris and I can get clever with it.
Eagle Eye, do you have a opinion on the foundation drain comment relative to the treatment, or you guys just haven't had a chance to look at that yet?
I haven't had a chance.
Okay, just curious.
Is John still on?
I'm on.
Oh, thanks, John. Is there anything else that you wanted to add at this
Can't imagine
time,
that'd be a
or responses to any of the comments?
No, I think, I think Chris hit the nail. Recommended or suggested special conditions. Obviously, up to the commission. I think they all sound appropriate from our end. The only thing I would add in is, regarding presence of a certifiable vernal pool, relationship to stormwater, etc. I think the most, in my opinion, critical part of it, as long as the applicant is amenable to it, is having a condition in the order to at least assess it prior to construction and get it certified if it is certifiable. That's the I guess, more important takeaway from our comment. I just wanted to bring that up for everyone's consideration.
If I may, I believe it is a condition of the previous Bent Street project. So we should continue that condition going forward.
What impact would that have that is certified as a vernal pool?
On the project, that it would be considered an outstanding resource water, ORW. So it would have higher limits of stormwater standards than what a traditional BVW would just have.
Okay.
Who does the certification?
It would be Chris Lucas. He's already assessed it. There's significant data in the previous submission that it's been assessed, and the previous wetland scientist for the other Bent Street project also provided significant documentation. So it's just a form data entry that you fill out on National Heritage, and you have to have specific indicators to prove that it's a vernal pool, of which it sounds like they have it, so.
Right, we haven't done a formal survey. We could do that this spring as a condition. I would just ask that it's not tied to construction, because we don't want to hold up construction if they were to move forward. We agreed to do it this spring, we just don't want, if he's able to mobilize for construction first, we don't want to have to wait for the vernal pool season to start. And again, it's almost 400 feet from the site, so we don't anticipate any issues with that. So we just ask it not to tie to construction. It's still part of the order. You have enforcement action if we didn't do it. We're going to do it.
I think you could phase it. I think you could definitely have an access, and then we could circle back to the stormwater discharge point if the commission feels more comfortable with that once the vernal pool is certified.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm assuming you'd like a chance to fully review Beta's
Yes,
comments
please.
before we actually,
Yes.
yep. I think we're really close, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm pleased to see the efforts that's being done to address the stormwater concerns of the applicant. We really appreciate that, and I think if we can just give, continue to the next meeting to February 8th, and just to give Brickell Eye the time to review the response from Beta, and then I think we'll be ready to assess at the next meeting if that looks fair. Are there any other questions from the commission?
No, I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, I was just wondering, just like on the certification point, if it is certified, you had asked to go ahead with the construction. So are you saying there'd be no change to the plan, no impact if it's certified or not?
Correct, because if once we certify it, it becomes an outstanding resource order. But that's the limit of the vernal pool which we defined. So that's 400 feet from here, so we're not required to do any additional stormwater
Okay.
as far as our opinion goes.
That
Even if-
vernal pool is, it's up gradient from the site, correct?
It's over here, isn't it?
No, it's
I think it's downgraded.
down by Bent Street.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah, well,
right
it's,
here. So it's actually off-site.
Okay.
So it's off the property. So,
Oh, okay.
oh,
wait, Steve, you own this parcel, correct?
Mhm.
Or Ben, Steve owns this, correct?
He does.
You own the adjacent parcel here, right, next to the west?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so, I don't have to worry about permission, but yeah, this was the vernal pool, and we flagged the median or high water line in the pool, so you can see how far we are from this.
okay.
Thank you.
So we can certify it, provide the documentation, we would submit it through the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Hub,
Oh, you're over
provide a
there,
copy
it's
of
over
that
there.
to Brickell Eye for the record once it's certified. again, that wouldn't require any revisions to the plans.
Thanks.
You know, I'll defer to Steve on the continuance. I know we were hoping to close tonight with potential conditions, because I think, you know, we've been back and forth with Beta. I think we've satisfied it, but we understand. I'll defer to you on that, Steve.
I mean, we just want to take 2 weeks to get it done, so everyone's happy.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I would prefer to let Regal just have a chance to review it fully, seeing it was just submitted yesterday, just to make sure we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's. Is everyone aligned with that? Do we have any comments or questions from, yes? Thank you.
Good evening. Just want to point out.
Can I just have you state your name?
Sure, my name is Romy Zalonic,
Thank you.
95 Bent Street. I'm going to be a butter that's directly involved with all this mess.
And you live where?
I live,
Right there?
no,
Or there?
the big, yeah, the long one,
Okay.
the one with all the water. I have 3 pictures here recently with all the water. And it was so bad, it was running across the house, and I'm on a slab, and I was afraid it was going to come in the house. I have never had water behind the house, which is, where this road is probably 10, 15 feet behind my house. And I have running water up against the house and running by it. And then, down at the street, it got down to the end of the driveway, and it almost crested. It's never done that before either. Get to the pipe, and it was coming up so high, it almost crested across the road. And I can't imagine how this project is gonna help me. And what do I do if it doesn't help me, and now I'm getting water in the house? Who's gonna be responsible? What do I do? I mean, on paper, it looks great, but in actuality, I think the last time there was a presentation, the person said that, the engineer said he never went on the property to actually look at it. So, like I said, it looks good on paper, but when you live there for 40 years and you see the changes over time, I just don't believe this is feasible. I really don't, because there's nothing I can do, really. So, and the neighbors are the same thing. They're gonna have to deal with all the construction, not to mention, I mentioned at the last meeting we spoke, the pipe going on where they're gonna be putting heavy equipment across. Yeah, they can put another pipe, but they can't keep the pipe there forever. And there's always, I used to work at the post office in Medway, and there's a tower behind us, South Tower. And there was always cranes, all this heavy equipment always going there, and they were working on the tower. So I know that's gonna be an issue behind us. And I'll give these pictures. You guys can all look at it, but that's how I feel. I just think it's just all about money. I have to say, if this person, Stephen, did his research and looked at the property instead of the area where it was, and saw how the lay of the land was, maybe he wouldn't have bought all that property, put it on the top. So, I'm just saying, I've been here 40 years. When I was a little kid, when I was born, I was in that house where we are now. So, I'm no stranger to the area. Let's put it that way, okay? I just want to say my piece, okay?
No, and thank you for coming in and for sharing the pictures. We do really appreciate it. I live your end of town and drive down Benton Street frequently, and I do understand from your perspective how wet it was. And being on that end of town, I also had 4 inches of water in my basement after the last big rainstorm that we had. So I can certainly empathize with the stress of dealing with that. Our role is not necessarily, our role is really looking at the wetland resources and making sure that we are following the guidelines within the resources, following the Wetlands Protection Act and our local regulations and bylaws. So for us to be able to deny a project, we would have to see that they're going against our actual regulations and bylaws or against the Wetlands Protection Act. So there are projects that come in front of us that we may not necessarily love, but as long as they're not breaking any laws and they're fitting within those guidelines, we don't have a right to deny them for that reason. I do like to see, at least with this project, that they are trying to come up with ways that they can utilize their stormwater management within the project to help try to make the situation better where it already is a bad situation. But I certainly do, understand your concerns and really appreciate you coming in to take the time, to share them with us. Does anyone else on the commission have any comments? Oh, thank you.
Gail Perchicanti from 20 Emily Drive.
Thanks.
Where is Emily Drive, if you don't mind telling us?
I'm sorry?
Where's Emily Drive located on this?
We are at the cul-de-sac across from where the tower will be built.
Oh, and I think further down.
There, okay.
Yeah.
Further
On
They're
the-
off the
On the
plan.
back end of the plan over here, like if we're looking at the lot, you're down on the
Yeah,
end, bottom right?
Yeah, we're down here.
Yeah,
We're down here at the other end
There
of
it
the
is, right there,
the
Richard.
cul-de-sac.
Yeah,
perfect,
So we'll be like looking at it.
okay.
So our big concern is, as you can imagine, what it's gonna do to our neighborhood. So anyway, I'm looking at the Conservation Commission, I downloaded this today, the Conservation Agent Report
Yes,
for Bent Street. And it says the beta submitted peer review January 24th.
mhm,
And so they are responding to the applicant's submission on January 24th, I'm assuming. And it's saying that they still have a lot of concerns. Have we already addressed all of these concerns, or is that for the February 8th meeting?
so
Because-
part of that is what has been resubmitted. So the applicant so Beta submitted this letter, the applicant is responding, both today with what they've discussed.
Okay, because it says, Beta submitted a peer review on January 24th. In review of this latest submission, outstanding comments still include, the applicant should also reassess stormwater management system design
Yes.
both at the location of the tower to ensure compliance with the stormwater standards and at the discharge point from the stormwater basin south of the site, south entrance, to prevent potential runoff impacts to the abutting property. At this time, the applicant has not provided sufficient information to describe the site, the work, or the effects of the work on the interests of the Wetlands Protection Act or the local bylaw.
Correct, so
So are we still dealing with that
we are.
aspect of it?
So Bricolai is going, as our conservation agent, is gonna take the time to fully review the report that Beta had submitted. And then she will compare that to what the applicant has submitted and see if she feels there is still something outstanding, which then will be presented to us as the commission, which will go back to the applicant if we feel that there's more information
That there's
needed.
more information they
Yes.
want. Okay, so that's, nothing's been
And that's the
decided-
same for
nothing's been
all of
decided on
these
that
bullet
yet.
points here, correct?
Okay.
and the engineer that's what he was addressing when he gave his presentation. That was his answer to the Beta's review, but we haven't officially reviewed it ourselves.
Okay, and that will be in writing? What
They've
he-
submitted
What he
it.
submitted tonight? Will that be an additional response to this? So that will be uploaded
Yeah,
also?
yes, so Chris Lucas, right behind you, he's a representative for the applicant, which is Stephen Geller. He will respond to these comments. He did it verbally tonight in a brief snapshot, so he'll respond in writing. That gets uploaded to the webpage, and then Beta and I will review that response, collaborate. Beta incorporates my comments into their review for ease of use, which is great. Jonathan writes my words, which is awesome. And then that'll be resubmitted in writing, and we'll move forward. So the comments that you're seeing are the outstanding comments to date from everything that we've discussed, which was finalized January 24th. So those
Right, these-
bulleted comments are out of that peer review letter with my comments intermixed into them.
Okay, so these additional comments from Beta though.
These are just the outstanding comments to date. This is what's left over from our discussion of the project, from every single discussion that we've had before now.
They've addressed a number
Right,
of
well,
them.
I guess where I'm getting confused, it says, in review of this latest submission, outstanding comments still include. So these are things that he didn't address from the first Beta report.
Correct.
So there's
Correct.
still information from Chris Lucas that we need to review. Not everything he submitted has been reviewed.
Okay,
So as of January 24th, there's still information
there's still information we need.
we're looking at that he talked about tonight. And it's nice for us to be able to hear it live. It gives us some good context, and then we look at what's been submitted in writing.
Okay,
And it's, you know, that's the process.
okay.
Does that help? Is that?
I think so, yeah. I need time to think it all
Yeah,
through.
yeah, sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can review the video. And I think it's the second to last one. It says the commission should also consider requiring the certification of the vernal pool by the applicant prior to the pre-construction meeting as a special condition. So can he start work before we have all of those certifications, or?
So what we just discussed is that Bricolage feels like we'll be able to phase the sequence of construction along with the vernal pool certification process. The rationale behind that is and correct me if I'm wrong, Bricolage, but the distance of the vernal pool from the actual work is sufficient that we feel comfortable with sequencing that in a specific order to make sure that we're still maintaining the process of certifying the vernal pool, but we don't feel that it would be a barrier to starting the construction process. Is that?
Yes.
Thank you.
And it would also allow sufficient time for them to mobilize while salamanders are moving or frogs are moving. They can move up to 1,000 feet from their home pond. So 400 feet, while it may not be regulatory jurisdictional, it's still within their mode of transportation.
Yeah.
So it ensures that all those trucks can avoid them as much as possible.
Okay, you're saying it's like 400 feet from there. I haven't had much time to read this, I just downloaded it today.
Sure.
Okay, so we have at least 2 more weeks, and then we would meet again.
Yes.
And then at that meeting, if you approved it, what happens then?
So I don't know if you want to go over
Sure.
the
So
process
once the
for us, so-
commission closes the hearing, votes to approve and closes the hearing, there's a 21-day appeal period to appeal any determination by the commission. After that 21-day, I issue the order, or I send it out, I mail it out. Post that, I would have to check of the nature of this project because it is telecommunications. They are afforded certain liberties that other projects are not. I would have to check to see if it has a building permit sign off or not. But typically work does not start 2 days after that, it doesn't start on the 24th day or 23rd day. So considering that and considering the outstanding items that we discussed that Chris Lucas would supply to Conservation Department, that being planting plans that still need to be approved, the certification of the vernal pool, that will take time. So it's really up to Stephen to tell me when he's looking to build, but as soon as he has that, that date, then we move forward with construction.
Okay. And so none of this goes back to Beta? It's now up to the town to enforce what Beta suggested?
Not
Will they be
necessarily.
reviewing the
Yep.
that
So
report
Chris Lucas
also?
is going to respond, or whoever, sorry, Chris, I just keep bringing you up. A representative of the applicant is going to respond. I'm going to review in conjunction with Beta. We're going to make sure that we're all in agreement, and then it's the commission that decides the conditions. So my role is to mediate all parties, to project manage, to make things move along, smoothly, and then to make recommendations of the commission. But ultimately, they're the permitting authority. So they're the ones that will be making the conditions, figuring out what those conditions are, and approving or denying the project.
Okay.
Any project, I should say.
Okay, it's starting to sink in. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
Yep, thanks for your time.
just had a follow-up question.
Sure.
So the deadline is next Thursday, correct? So if we get the short response to these comments in, that would provide you and Mr. Nero enough time to review it for the hearing?
Yep.
Great.
Sooner the
I know
better.
Mr. Nero had said, it sounds like we've addressed everything verbally tonight, and the rest can be conditioned, so we'll just note that in the response. Great, thank you.
If you write it like you said it, you won't have a problem.
Will the video be posted in the next few days?
It's on YouTube right now.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the public?
Excuse me, Dan Stoop at 20 Emily Drive, Franklin. Three things. One, questioning validity of the Bent Street application. On 16 November of 2023, I hand-delivered a letter to the town clerk's office concerning the Bent Street development. And the letter stated that the Bent Street zoning variance has expired by its term. So this is going by the bylaws of Franklin. It says that, you know, they started this application in 2021, got it approved by the zoning office or board. So that means a year, and they put in for an extension which expired in June 23. Okay, so that means by the bylaws of Franklin, they have to start this entire process all over again. I also hand-delivered that letter, or emailed, or registered mail, the same letter on November 7th to the town administrator, building commissioner, conservation commissioner, and also the town attorney. So based upon the fact that June 23rd, or 2023, was the last date, they should be starting this process all over again. So all this is null and void. Number two, about the beta report. So I read the beta report and two follow-on reports. W7, which is the one that's concerning the access road being proposed to cross over, you know, the 25-foot no disturb zone. Regardless if they move the road, and I realize they moved, potentially, move the poles and utility lines to the west side. So if you're looking at it, it's to the west side versus over on the east side. Prior to that, it's still, the road is still, the access road, which is made by impermeable materials, is still going to cross over the wetlands area. And matter of fact, I was doing a little calculation. So from Bent Street down the access road, including the 25-foot zone, the 50-foot zone, and the 100-foot zone, there's approximately going to be 2,700 square feet of wetlands, you know, 0 to 100, that's going to be affected by this. Lastly, in Lucas Environmental Report, section 5.2, it states that they are not aware of a known private well within 500 feet of his property, which is outlined in blue right there. Well, I have a well, and I like to have a study done to make sure that this is not going to affect my water. Thank you.
Do you have any thoughts on the well situation? Because that's not something that I am familiar with.
No, but I would encourage Mr. Stephen Keller to reach out to the property owner.
Okay. Dan, I would just encourage you, I hear your concerns about the variance being expired. I would encourage you to reach out to our town attorney, Mark Sorrell.
I reached out to, I either emailed, like I said, I emailed registered email or registered mail, and I hand delivered to the town and also those 4 different offices. So the town attorney, the conservation commissioner, building commissioner, and town administrator And also, and I don't remember the name of the person, but was it? And we did actually get a phone call from the town concerning this, and, you know, they made their decision, I guess, regardless of whatever the bylaws say, they waved it on, and here we are. So, I'm just going by, you know, I'm a person who believes in laws, and this is one of our bylaws, and it says, you had a year, you have a 6 month extension, and therefore, it's null and void, start over. And I don't care if it's gonna cost the developer money or not. That's the rules, so.
If you do,
Where is your property in reference to this?
So if you see the light blue, yeah, big light blue.
You down here?
Yeah, we're at the circle.
Yeah, there it is, right there.
There.
This-
Okay.
Yep, that one.
If it wasn't going to be so tall, we wouldn't have so many concerns, but it's massive.
And,
I think it's,
and I re-
I think it's overwhelming, it's asking too much of the neighborhood. We have a beautiful neighborhood, we were going to see this.
can I
for
just have you come
miles.
back up to the mic, just so we have someone taking minutes, so we want to make sure that we're actually recording everything. Thank you.
I didn't intend to get off on that, it's not conservation's problem.
We appreciate you taking the time to come in, we really do.
It doesn't make any difference though.
So-
It's like we have no rights left. They're walking all over us, the whole neighborhood, they're walking all over all of us.
So Dan, I'm certainly happy to, if you do want to follow up with Attorney Sorrell, I am certainly happy to reach out and let him know that you'll be contacting him to just ensure that you do hear back from somebody. So feel free to reach out, and I can certainly make sure that happens. Myself a note here.
Did you have another comment?
Just that I would double down on contacting Attorney Sorrell. I do not live in building or ZBA, but I received your letter. I know we all were in receipt of the letter. I know it went somewhere. I don't know what direction that is. So, and to be fair, he's probably watching. So, he's probably.
Oh, my attorney.
Yeah, but I'll make sure that he is, I will reach out to him tomorrow and make sure that he's aware of your concerns, and if you'd like to reach back out, and just ensuring that he will, be back in contact for further discussion. And again, thank you all for coming in today. Are there any other questions or comments from the public at this time? And any questions or comments from the commission at this time?
All good.
All right, well then we'll go ahead and continue this project, so we'll go ahead and continue the NOI for 0 Bent Street, if I can have a motion for that.
I'll give a motion for continuing the NOI for 0 Bent Street to February 8th, 7:06, still the appropriate time?
Yes, please. Thank you.
7:06.
Second?
Thank you all. Richard, how do you
Vote
vote?
to continue.
Continue?
Vote to continue.
Continue.
Continue?
And Roger?
Continue,
Thanks, Roger.
continue.
All right, so we've continued the NOI for 0 Bent Street to February 8th at 7:06 PM. Thank you all.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
All right, with that, I will go ahead and open up the NOI for the proposed solar array at parcel 3, 160 Maple Street. Do we have anybody here from parcel 3 for 160 Maple Street?
I don't see anybody on. I did not receive a request for continuation. While we were here, I did email the Maplegate team, since they've been pretty receptive.
Yeah.
I haven't received anything. I would presume they're still just responding to comments.
Okay. We've already reached out, but can we just confirm with them that we would like somebody here for the next meeting for an update either way,
Yes.
even if they're still going through?
I'm sure I'll get a big oops.
I'm sure they've been very communicative, so I don't want to
Yes.
Yep, sounds good. Are there any comments or questions from the commission on that one then? All right, and any comments or questions from the public on Maplegate South? All right, with that, can I have a motion to continue the NOI for the proposed solar array at parcel 3160 Maple Street?
Give you a motion to continue the NOI on proposed solar array, parcel 3160 Maple Street, to February 8th at 7:07.
Thank you. Richard,
Vote to
have you-
continue.
Continue.
Vote to continue.
Continue.
Continue?
Roger?
Continue.
Great, so the NOI for
Continue.
the proposed solar array for parcel 3160 Maple Street is continued to February 8th at 7:07 PM. With that, I will open the NOI for lot 160 Spring Street. Do we have anyone here for,
Requested continuance for both.
okay? I'm sorry, they did request a continuance? Okay,
Still responding to comments.
okay. Any comments or questions from the commission? And any comments or questions from the public on lot 160 Spring Street? All right, can I have a motion to continue the NOI for lot 160 Spring Street?
I'll give you a motion to continue the NOI for lot 160 Spring Street to February 8th, 7:08.
Second?
Thank you. Richard, how do you vote?
Vote to continue.
Continue.
Vote to continue.
Continue.
Continue?
Roger?
Continue.
Thank you. We will continue the NOI for lot 160 Spring Street. So then that also means for the NOI, we're opening the NOI for lot 360 Spring Street, which the applicant has also asked for a continuance. Any comments or questions from the commission? Any comments or questions from the public? Can I have a motion to continue the NOI for lot 360 Spring Street, please?
Give you a motion to continue the NOI for lot 360 Spring Street till February 8th at 7:09 PM.
Second that.
Thank you.
Vote to
Richard?
continue.
Continue.
Vote to continue.
Continue.
Continue?
Roger?
Continue.
Thank you. The NOI for lot 360 Spring Street is continued to February 8th at 7:09 PM. And with that, I will go ahead and open the NOI for 121 Grove Street.
All good? Madam Chair, how are you?
Well, thank you.
John Scheib, also with Chris Lucas and Brian McCarthy. We were here 2 weeks ago, and we're back this evening. My recollection, in my mind, 2 items that we had to discuss. You want me to, I believe we would be glad to assist or answer any questions that you might have on the waivers that we requested in our application to the ZBA. And also, I guess, maybe some follow-up on where data is with their peer review, both the status of any review they may have started on the wetland and closure on exactly what the scope would be for their drainage review. So, however you'd like to.
All right, well, I guess before we jump in to our conversation about variance requests, is there anything we feel like from your perspective that you want to update on?
I'll do the easiest one. So there are 3 things of note tonight. One is the waivers, which is for you all to discuss.
Mhm.
The second is you wanted to discuss stormwater fees as well, or peer review fees. And then the third, Madam Chair, you asked to schedule site visits in front of you all for this project. So I am here to schedule a site visit, at least, or at the bare minimum, to approve the delineation of the 2 outstanding intermittent streams. Chris Lucas, do you have availability next Tuesday morning, January 30th? Otherwise, Madam Chair, if that's too on the spot, would it be amenable to you for me to schedule via email, but I can CC you on the emails?
Sure.
Is that fine?
That would be fine if that's easier to coordinate.
I can rearrange my schedule to be available on Tuesday. I'm just concerned with the snow. Okay, Monday. We should probably touch base at this Monday.
Sure, yeah, that's
Fine with that.
okay. That works for me as well then, thank you. So stormwater, I know Jonathan had a chance to review with the Beta the process that they go through as far as stormwater fees, and have come back saying that they will require an independent review on their end. I can pull up quickly that, if you give me just a moment. Just a moment. I was going to read from the letter, but I'm not pulling it up at the moment, so, but just as far as their process is that they will not be able to, as we discussed, potentially review another company's, work that they've done. I think it would overall take them more time and effort to then review other work than to go out and do the work themselves. And Jonathan, feel free to jump in and correct me if I'm, stating this incorrectly.
No, it's not incorrect. I would just add in that it would put our engineers in kind of a odd and tough position if we were to take a peer review from another firm and either have to agree or potentially refute it. So what I would say is, first and foremost, ultimately, it's up to the commission, the scope of Beta's review. We're here to provide the commission with the services they need, so I would defer to them on what those services are. But I would say if the commission does want Beta to also do a peer review of stormwater for conservation, we'll do our normal peer review, issue that to the commission, and then certainly if there's any, glaring discrepancies or contradictions or anything of that nature between our letter and Hancock's, we would certainly be amenable to meeting with the applicant and the other peer reviewer to straighten some of those things out in like a kind of like a technical meeting like we've done for other projects.
So Jonathan, looking at sort of timelines from your perspective then, what would the process look like on your end if you're to do an independent review versus potentially having these additional meetings going back and forth? Well, my assumption after, kind of reading the letter was that if we go that other process, not only are there concerns on reviewing other people's, work as well, and your license obviously being on that as well, but, or whoever's reviewing it, their license being on someone else's work as well. But I got the impression that there was potential for slowing down the process with adding potential additional reviews in there.
Yeah, because what could end up happening is, so when we do a peer review, whether it's on the engineering or wetland side, we dive into the proposed work, all the documentation submitted by the applicant, interpret it, and then come up with our comments. What would essentially happen in reviewing someone else's peer review is you would do all that, plus try and reconcile it or assume what someone else was trying to think on their end of the peer review, and it would put so there would definitely be a time component to it, and it would also just put our staff in a tough position. It really turns into that point, it's more of peer reviewing a peer review. Which is something that folks don't tend to do. But we do think, if the commission wanted Beta to also do a peer review of stormwater, we feel that a sensible path forward would be to perform that review. And then once we issue our independent comments, if there is anything that contradicts with another firm's review, we can certainly meet with them and talk it out with the applicant and a representative of the commission.
So I know certainly this is up for all of us for discussion as far as, how we want to move forward with this. I can save my comments or I can give mine first, but if anyone has comments.
I think one of the challenges and concerns were, and I think you addressed it at the last meeting, is that Beta and the other firm that's going to be doing the review are going to be looking at some different things, right? There's potentially some overlap but it's not the same review, I don't believe, right? So A, we'll be looking at some different things, and B, it gives us the chance of the Conservation Commission to look at that information from Beta and assess that as part of our process.
Yeah, I understand that. However, I think if I could revert back to my original request, R.J. O'Connell, very professional firm, Hancock, also a very professional firm. You'll have a very thorough stormwater original design and review. A third reviewer does have the potential for then just having conflicting comments. There's the added cost of a third review. And it might help to try to discern between the types of review that you might be thinking are stormwater wetland related versus stormwater design otherwise. And I'm pretty sure, and I'll ask Brian if he can speak on it, a stormwater review should be very much the same wherever the drainage component is, near or not near a wetland. The Mass DEP guidelines actually stipulate, where you need separation to groundwater when you infiltrate, how much you need to infiltrate, the runoff calculations, curve values, calculation of slope of water, how much water is running off. It's all very much the same. That mechanical effort and the calculations are very much the same whether you're in a buffer zone or not. So it's, in my mind, Hancock's review should in fact be the same that Beta would perform. Do you have anything else to add? Sorry.
No.
Do you mind if I ask Brian, is there anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean, this is what you said is correct. We gotta follow the certain standards. Mass DEP has set the standards. There's treatment standards, there's peak flow standards, there's operation and maintenance standards. It's all within the DEP stormwater handbook, stormwater policy. That's what we all follow. And they're gonna review it based on those standards. We designed it based on those standards, so it's very unusual for us to see somebody have two peer reviews on the same design. It's pretty standard stuff.
I mean, it's nothing that we've ever waived for a project before, as far as, unless, Jeff, I don't know if you want to correct me there, but as far as my knowledge is that, Conservation Commission always requires an independent stormwater review.
Sure.
And I believe ZBA usually does on their end as well, so I think that's pretty standard for Franklin policy to have the two reviews. And I think the same thing, it goes back to they're looking at it from, ZBA is looking at it from an engineering perspective, and we're looking at it from more of the wetland scientist perspective. So I personally feel pretty strongly on maintaining our independent review through Beta, but certainly open to discussion with the commission if there's other opinions. Doctor, do you have any thoughts?
I'm just wondering, is this other review a third-party review?
Yes, so Hancock has been, it's similarly, like you hire Beta, right, or at least, yeah, well, they pay for it, but, yeah. They have Hancock, you have Beta, and then R.J. O'Connell's on behalf of the applicant. So it's.
So the town is hiring Hancock?
It's through ZBA.
Right, ZBA.
Yep.
So if it's the same, why do it twice? I'm not getting it either.
Because they're only having am I correct, they're only having an engineer assess it, and we're
So
having the full team of.
engineers have to look at it regardless. Chair Hagan is right. The commission has not waived this for any other project. Before, we've had actual successful friendly 40Bs that have come in front of us that have paid for stormwater review, and the projects are going along swell. How I would frame it to you is having a more comprehensive look for your review. So otherwise, if you were to waive stormwater review, that means Beta does their portion. It is not as comprehensive because they are not allowed to review stormwater. And stormwater is integral to this site and integral to your jurisdiction as the Conservation Commission. That also means that I would have to wait for ZBA to conduct their review, receive that, disseminate that information, and then try and piecemeal it with Beta's review. I firmly believe you will not receive a holistic, comprehensive review of the site, what your jurisdiction are, or their impacts.
Okay,
To that point, I would just like to remind the commission, if it helps give you a directive, your directive is protection of natural resources and mitigating impacts. So it's all well and good, to consider waiving it. I think, having great relationships with applicants goes above and beyond. I also think, putting more work on other engineers is also, whether that is for Beta or for the applicant, again, your direction is protection of natural resources. So where you feel you need to do that, I would suggest and recommend you follow that path.
Thank you.
So in line with that, with the size of the project, with the location of the stormwater management systems near the wetlands, I would feel comfortable having that more comprehensive review
Okay.
and data.
All right,
But
thanks.
certainly still open to other opinions if.
Mhm.
Do we feel this is something we want to take a vote on, just so we have it?
I think it'd be good to, put it, I mean, I don't know, Richard, any?
How are we going to phrase it?
I think it's a matter of whether we're gonna require a stormwater assessment by Beta for the Conservation Commission.
Are you for or against this requirement?
That is a requirement for this,
Are you for or against a requirement
Yeah,
having a independent assessment with the wetland piece?
the wetland scientist.
I mean, if you don't feel it's appropriate, I'd love to hear thoughts too. I mean, we're all just bouncing ideas here, so.
No. So this is as we're advertising here, this is the third shot at some kind of stormwater. One's done by an engineer, a civil engineer, one's done by our Beta, who is a wetland scientist, and who was the first one?
So you got planning and zoning's consultant, the applicant's consultant, and our consultant, right?
And the planning and zoning consultant is,
Civil engineer.
So this is the second, so it's only 2 reviews, because every applicant has to admit stormwater, so that's besides the point. That always needs to be verified and checked. So you have 2, you have ZBA, it's not, the planning board's out of it, so it's ZBA and conservation. It will be an engineer, so Beta is a one-stop shop. Beta has everybody needed
Yeah.
at Beta to review. So our liaison with Beta and the person we mostly work with is John Nero. Sometimes we have Elise Tripp, sometimes we have others, right? But it's mainly John. John works behind the scenes with Gary James, who's a stormwater engineer at Beta. Beta also does traffic. It's just one-stop comprehensive shop. It's good
I
business
get
model.
it. It seems like a lot of overlap, but I get it.
Well, I guess that question of overlap, especially what has not been included, that we need. There's something that has not been included that we need, and we need to get that. I think that's the position some of us are taking. I'm taking that position for the record.
Okay. Yes, all right. I'm cool.
Jeff, any?
I'm all for Beta's work.
We'll do it that way.
But for me, it's very simple. Do we have the information or not? We don't.
And we don't think we'll get it.
Right.
Okay. We want to make sure we do.
Right. Because that's our charter. As Bree said. So, I mean,
That's it.
that's the logic. Yeah.
That's what we are. Okay.
I would suggest, though, that the town maybe look at some way of leveraging similar independent reviews, because I can see their point. It seems kind of,
You can make the boards, all the different boards in this town work together like that,
Yeah.
You would be.
Yeah.
You're in town administrator.
You're in the wrong
That's
spot.
That's
I mean,
what we need.
To be
That's-
fair, they
that's
do.
what we need.
ZBA has their own, and then Planning Board and Conservation have joined forces, and we have our own as well.
Yeah.
So there's really only 3 boards and 2 different peer reviewers. So, I mean, it's halfway there, third of the way there. So,
It would be nice if we were all aligned though, because then it would stop this.
Yeah.
You know.
I would, if I may, you had questions on language, I would say Conservation Commission retaining an independent, third-party reviewer. So, and I will note that, Mr. Shipe did cut a check and he's already paid for half of the stormwater review, so it shouldn't be too much of a burden to just cut the other half.
I'm sorry. Wasn't the original proposal from Beta for like 12,500?
I'd have to go back and look, to be honest. When it was contested, I kind of went to the, the bottom of my priority list, and now it's bringing back to the top. I know you submitted a check for, I think, 12,900.
14,000.
14,000. All right.
So, I
Well,
mean,
I will look
Big
at.
difference between half, and I think we overpaid
Oh,
a
I,
little
no,
bit.
I said half of the stormwater, that's what I meant. So you
Half
were
the stormwater?
contesting 4,000, yep, so you included a letter that said that you would pay a little
Overpaid
bit
it.
over of what's needed to cover the cost of potential stormwater, but then you were also seeking a waiver from paying stormwater at all. So I interpreted
No,
that
I'm
as.
sorry, we were not
One
requesting
second.
waiver from.
Hold on, 1 second, please.
Peer review.
From the stormwater component of it, you were seeking a waiver from third-party review. Did I miss?
Oh, was that a waiver? We were discussing last week, or 2 weeks ago, the scope of the peer review.
Yes.
If the
It includes
request to
stormwater.
not have Beta perform a stormwater review was a
Correct.
waiver?
You
Very
were
good.
seeking being waived from, I'm sorry, Mr. Shipe,
Sorry.
I misspoke, but all the same, I will have to go back and see where the difference is, so Mr. Shipe can cut an additional check if needed. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say, I think we overpaid
Sure.
with the intention to avoid this exact conversation about, let's stop and wait for more money to come in. So, because we did that last time, I think that, but in any event, I think right now you have more money than's been requested, basically such that in case this goes on and there's more work necessary, there was additional monies, so.
So the money that has been paid will cover what is in the scope and fee, that lines with that, and then if that stormwater was already covered within that funds, then absolutely we'll go forward with that. Brinkle, I will look on the back end to make sure that everything is accounted for in the scope and fee, and we'll just follow up, because I
That makes
also don't have
sense,
that in
yeah.
front of me,
I-
so.
Thank you,
yeah.
yeah.
Just so that we're all clear, I would like to go ahead and have the commission vote on, the wording was if we want, we will, Conservation Commission will maintain our right for an independent stormwater review for the NOI for 121 Grove Street. Richard, how do you vote?
I vote to approve that.
Agree.
Agree.
Vote to agree.
I vote to agree as well.
Vote to agree.
Vote to agree.
And Roger?
Vote to agree.
Okay. So with that, we will go ahead and, require the independent
Oh, I understand
stormwater
entirely.
review.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's fine. We discussed it.
Yep.
I know you've come to a different conclusion, that's fine.
Awesome, thank you, John. And then we do need to take a few minutes to look at our list of exemptions here so that I can write that recommendation letter for the ZBA.
Just a little.
I know.
While we're on the stormwater.
Yes.
and I don't know, it's gonna be part of the rest of the waivers. I think there was at least a conversation or a question about the stormwater, what's a surcharge that the town.
Yeah, so that's actually in one of the
Okay,
waivers here,
got
so.
it, got it. Okay, so we were on stormwater, so I thought I'd bring it up, but I'm good.
Yeah, no, thank you, I appreciate that. And we can certainly jump to that first if we want to go ahead and discuss that first, or we can start at the,
Start at the beginning.
we'll start at the beginning and work our way through. So, we have our stormwater bylaws, section 153.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Can I just ask kind of a
Yes.
general basic question?
Absolutely.
So the reason we're even talking about waivers is because this is a friendly 40B. And the reason it's friendly is because the town is currently meeting its affordability requirement.
We're above the 10%, yes.
I did have a question about the affordability. Are those units that are set aside to be affordable in perpetuity?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is a friendly.
Yes.
And how does the fact that it's a friendly 40B affect this?
Well, they are able to, if we were under our 10%, they would be waived from our local bylaws and regulations. Because we're above the 10%, they can request which regulations and bylaws they would like to be exempt from. I think Jeff made a good point last week. You know, it seems like a really long list, and if they didn't ask, the answer would be no. So I think they've, you know, put in all of these things in hopes that this is what it would look like if we were below the 10%, so what are we willing to,
So,
to,
in one respect, if we were under the 10%, we needed them, and when we're over the 10%, we don't need you anymore.
correct. As
Just
far as
to
state
be-
regulations,
just to
you know,
be
do we need more,
blunt.
you know, affordable housing in town? That's a, you know, discussion for another time.
You know, I think it's worth making the comment that even a number of projects that came to town when we were under the 10% still work with us on a lot of the local bylaws.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though they were technically exempt.
Didn't have to, but they
Didn't
did.
have to, but did.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, but it's a good question, right? Doesn't hurt to ask and
Yep.
and discuss.
So philosophically, why do we need to grant all these waivers? Basically, what they're trying to do is remove us from this whole process moving forward. And I have a problem with that.
Well, I think in fairness to them, they're still willing to adhere to the Federal Wetlands Protection Act, which we'd still have jurisdiction over, right? But there's more stringent guidelines under our local stuff.
Exactly, but basically what they're doing is removing us from the process. Any other developer that came before us, would grant these waivers? Probably not. So why should we give them, you know, these waivers? I really have a problem with this entire document.
And I think that's fair. I think, you know, what we can do is look through it tonight and see, you know, which ones for us we feel really strongly about, which I know for you is all of them, which is totally fair. I think there's, from my perspective going through them, I feel like there's some, with the size of this project and knowing, you know, going through the INRAD process with them, that we might be able to work with them, you know, a bit on. So let's just do a quick run through and kind of see what that sort of looks like for everybody.
One of the kind of overall comment.
Yes.
A lot of these deal more with DPW and their requirements than our requirements.
Yeah.
Why should we grant a waiver for something that's really out of our knowledge base?
So I did consult with both Bricolai and got some feedback from DPW and our town engineer as well, you know, kind of looking at these things to make sure that I understood, you know, why we're looking at it is because stormwater does still fall under our jurisdiction. So although these are DPW applicable, in chapter 153 is not our specific bylaw. We do, because we have stormwater under our scope, still
You know,
applies to us.
A lot of these are very technical. For instance, here's one, reinforced concrete with bell and splitter gasketed joints. I have no clue of what they're talking about here. And whether or not we should be, you know, granting a waiver for something that's really out of our area of expertise.
Yeah.
And there's several here, you know, like that. Being manufactured domestically as opposed to someplace else. Well, someone must feel very strongly about that to put it into the town's bylaws. Who are we to, you know, to weigh those requirements?
Yeah, I mean, so like, let's see, looking at, I got some feedback as far as, from our town engineer about the specific, bell and spigot gasket joints there and their request to use plastic chambers or pipes, or corrugated metal pipe. And, I know Bricolai, you were at this conversation as well, so correct me if I'm wrong here, but, that the plastic can be trickier, and it's up to the contractor to maintain that well, which then, you know, from our perspective would require oversight. So that was one specifically that if we're taking away oversight and then you know, relying on the contractor to do something that's more challenging, would not be something that I'd be comfortable with if we didn't have the oversight as well with it.
It's not as sustainable and sturdy. It's allowed, but the town has put these protections in place to be able to mitigate and prohibit future impacts.
At some point, the contractor is gonna be going away, and the town is basically on the hook to support this.
Yeah.
And if they're putting the requirements into their bylaws, I don't think that we should be waiving those requirements.
Yeah. So let's quickly go through, just kind of starting at the top, walk through one by one. So looking at applicability, they're looking for the waiver from the local bylaw for local approvals and permits. With the description, no person shall perform any activity that results in a land disturbance activity of an acre or more of land without an approval of soil erosion and sediment control plan and stormwater management plan. You know, from our perspective, that's best practice for protecting our resources, so that's not one for me that I'm interested in waiving.
Yep, which is great.
Yeah. Inspections, submission of final plan, so waiver from DPW inspection and DPW approval plans, and waiver from requirement for as-built plan submittal. Again, taking that away limits any oversight that the town has, so, again, that's one for me that I'm not comfortable with waiving. And certainly as I'm reading through this and stating my comments, if you have other comments, please feel free to jump in. And so 153.8 project changes, so waiver from the requirement of project changes and submittal of amended plans for approval. Same comment as the previous. Notification, so 153.8, oh sorry, we just did that one. 153.9 is fees, so review fees and the waiver from this requirement. All of our town projects require fees.
Without the fees, you don't get, you don't get the review, so basically it's taking away the prospect of review. I mean, that's
Yeah.
basically what it is. So come on.
From my understanding of the next one at 153.10, the surety, it's a payment that is made sort of like a bond.
It's a bond,
that gets-
yeah.
that
Are
gets
we gonna,
repaid to
do we
them.
require a bond?
So we do, and all other projects do, is under this form of surety.
We do, we do. Okay.
So 153.12 and 14, soil erosion and sediment control, they're requesting the waiver for submittal requirements to DPW, and a soil erosion and sediment control plan will be prepared. So they're just requesting the waiver for it to be submitted to be DPW.
Why?
If it's being prepared anyway, there's no reason not to share
Submit
it.
it, right,
Yeah,
I think
if we're gonna review it, they're
kind
gonna
of
review it. so.
ties in, so.
They might be trying to lessen the review process.
I know.
And, you know, maybe this is one where we work with them and say, well, if they don't want the extra person to CC on, you know, as a town, we can
I
forward it
can
on.
forward it.
Yeah, we can forward it on
I
to
can-
them.
It's
so
kind of
maybe
like a
that's
submittal process on a regular construction project. You have to submit everything you're going to do and get it approved by the engineer, get it back and address their comments. That can be a very lengthy and
Yeah,
onerous process, so that's probably why they're trying to do that.
yeah. You know, so maybe this is one that we look at, you know, being okay with waiving, just knowing that internally we would have DPW still, you know, put eyes on it, and we can include their comments within ours.
It would be very similar. I mean, the only
What we do
difference is
currently
instead
anyway.
of them independently submitting it, I will receive it because it's a part of the project.
So
And I will send it to our town engineer.
So
And
Yeah, I
I
don't
will
have a
get
problem with
comments
them
back.
knowing what they're doing, if that's what we,
Yeah,
That's
so
how
just
we wanna
saving
do it,
them a
'cause that's
step in
how
the
we do it.
process, yeah, if it's saving them a step in the process, you know, might be one where we could work with them and say,
submit should be very nice.
So how, I'm sorry, how was I gonna work again?
This
So
is
the-
about the erosion and sediment control per pound.
so the erosion and sediment, yeah, soil erosion and sediment control plan will be prepared, and that's something that we receive anyway, right, Bricoli? Am I correct that we would receive that?
Yes, and I would suggest the commission request it, and I would request it
Yeah.
as part of the plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we, as you know, an area
I
to work
see.
with them,
I see.
we receive it, we they take the step away of, submitting additionally to DPW, but we then internally work with
I got
DPW
it.
to still get the comments from them.
So we would review it, then DPW would review it,
We combine our comments
or
and, yeah.
So that's, okay. That makes sense. Thank you for explaining.
Yeah. So 153, 15, and 17, stormwater management plan shall be prepared by a licensed civil engineer and submitted to the Department of Public Works for review. So they are requesting a waiver from the requirement to DPW.
Very similar
I was
to
gonna
the
say, if we're
thing
getting it
above.
anyway,
Yeah.
can we do the same and just
Yep.
submit to
Yeah,
them?
right.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will share information
submit it to
internally.
them, submit it to us, it's all done at the same spot.
That makes sense.
Groundwater, so they're looking for a waiver from groundwater determination between November and April. Groundwater determinations were completed between October 24th and October 27th.
So
November
we're
to
talking
April is
about
when
from
the water's
November
gonna
to
be the
April?
highest.
Yeah.
But October is kind of irrelevant.
So now we got October, 3 days in October?
Yep. So I would not like to waive this one personally. I feel like, especially with the amount of water on that property and what we've even seen flowing off of the property.
measure during the storms, we're okay. I mean,
This is 4 days away from November.
Madam Chair, there are probably things we could offer opinions or assistance on some of this regard. if
you
you'd
do know,
like.
how this is coming across, right? You do know this, right? You understand this, right?
Yeah.
It's coming across as ridiculous, completely ridiculous. Seriously. I mean, like, you take apart every single freaking rule and just turn it to your advantage. It's absurd, completely absurd.
I would beg to differ. It's not
No,
absurd.
it's not.
Well,
It's totally
we have a difference of
absurd.
opinion there, but your commission, of course, has a lot of authority under the Wetland Protection Act. And we're not asking for any relief from all of the onerous and lengthy regulations of the Wetland Protection Act. There are local provisions that actually are the same as the Wetland Protection Act. We did provide a stamped stormwater management plan. You have that. You can, review it. But under your local bylaw, it might have a little, additional thing that's associated with it. And so we requested relief from that. Testing for groundwater, the modern way of testing groundwater is estimated seasonal high groundwater based on soil modeling. I'm sure you've heard this term. So that can be done any time of the year. So there are a lot of provisions here. I know it sounds like a lot, but these are all nuances. You're absolutely right. We're not sure why you adjudicate on DPW regulations, but that's what your bylaw, points us to. So
Yep.
I'll sit down, I'm not saying more, or if you want us to opine and maybe assist, then
I will
give me
plan
the-
on, I will ask you if we have specific questions,
Very-
if that works for you, John.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
absolutely, thank you. And thanks for letting me just,
Yeah.
chime in a little bit here.
Yep.
Yeah, only here to help.
No, and it's like absolutely what Mark just said, it
Can
is
we-
a discussion, so,
Can we get their thoughts on this one?
on the groundwater one.
Hmm.
So,
Just gave it.
do you have more thoughts, John, on the groundwater other than?
Yeah, Brian Carpenter. So, again, the Mass DEP Stormwater Handbook, which is the current standard for stormwater design, it tells us how to determine the groundwater. Groundwater is determined through soil test beds and looking at the soil redox features. And that's in there because you can do it any time of the year. The older standard used to be during certain periods of times of the year, where you would go and actually measure the actual groundwater. Measuring the redox features is actually more conservative than looking at actual groundwater during a certain period of time. So that's why DEP has to do that, and that's what we did.
Brigla, can I get your comments on that as well, just from a scientific
That is a
perspective?
correct statement.
Okay,
That is the most current way to do it.
okay.
And it does allow for less disturbance.
And so that is what has been done, is actually looking at redox levels and the actual soil tests
Yeah,
instead of.
any models.
Yeah.
But
So then would you yourself be comfortable with waiving that specific, if we've already had?
I'm not sure, considering the amount of water that is on that site and the amount of groundwater seeps.
Yeah. how would the amount of groundwater, would that change your soil over, like, over the readings that you're getting? I know, like, long-term, you look at like a 3-year period, but are we gonna get different readings of the soil with that much groundwater in the site at a different time, or do you just don't know?
Not from a wetland delineation standpoint. Where it would be most benefit to them is to make sure that their buildings have solid ground to be on, and there are certain thresholds, there's a certain depth or height, if you will, that their building has to be above groundwater. So, given the nature of the site, you know, coupled with the wetland delineation that we found, I'm not an engineer, so I would leave that to RJ O'Connell to look at, but it might actually be of a benefit for them to take a more conservative view and to really look at the groundwater on the property. So, it's weedy, but, you know, we'll get through it.
Well, the ground levels are good. They impact how you're going to design the
Exactly.
controls, but in addition, just from a pure structural standpoint of building your roads, building your buildings, you'd really like to know where your groundwater is so that you know what kind of foundation you're putting down. So they have a big idea or determination here that will allow them to design, so they want to really know where their water is, I would think. And if they're comfortable with that, I don't know.
John, do you have-
October and 23rd. If it,
This is geotechnical engineering, completely different field. We have experts that will eventually stamp plans. They're geotechnical engineers. They tell us the types of soils. They tell us concerns relative to depth of groundwater.
yeah, so you need to know that before you design your structures, right? That's, if you're comfortable with that.
We are, yeah. I think that what's important for any commission trying to invoke and comply with the Wetland Protection Act and the associated stormwater calculations, an important component is when an underground system is designed to contain stormwater runoff and infiltrate into the ground, the bottom of that system is required to be a certain distance from the seasonal high groundwater elevation. If you were to do a test pit and find that it's really deep, that water's really deep, it doesn't matter. What counts is the modeling or the redox features that Brian was talking about. That's what governs. And it's a licensed soil evaluator that determines it. And the infiltration system is required to be a certain distance above that elevation. That's really all the Wetland Protection Act. I know there are probably other things that the Wetland Protection Act is concerned about, you know, groundwater, but that's the most important one. So we're very comfortable with where we are in that regard.
And just from, you know, looking at big picture, if this is something we were to waive for this project and setting a precedent for this for 40Bs, are there other situations where this would not, like, it would be a problem for this to be the precedent that we're setting?
I don't know if I can answer that. I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah. I'm just trying to
You
think
know,
of other
I've been consulting for 10 years. I've only been here for 2, but I would actually parrot Jeff saying that this is what the citizens, your bylaw states. It is there for a reason. So I am here to empower you and to support you in the way that you feel.
Is this kind of a cost and time issue? I mean, we're right here in the season, right? Is that the?
I can, you know, to the applicant's point, these are DPW bylaws, and I can seek more information from Mike Maglio, the town engineer, if you would like. And I can blind CC you in an email, and if it's agreeable to all of you, then maybe Megan, you can just include it in your letter within the next 2 weeks.
Seems like a sticky one, maybe that's.
I'm not too concerned about it myself.
But, you know, one of the underlying principles here is what precedents are we setting forth going forward? If we grant these waivers, any other developer coming before us can ask for the same waiver? That's,
If it's
that
a-
gets dangerous.
If it's a friendly 40B,
It's a friendly 40, and he's also, what he's saying is they're gonna use the determination that was completed between October 24th and 27th. I don't think that's gonna go down in the record book. It says it's always 24th and 27th. That's just when they did their determination.
and in this case, it's only 4 days away from the bylaw period.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's pretty
and
close.
they're following best scientific practice, it sounds like.
And they're following
Um,
best scientific practices.
I mean, I guess I probably would like Mike Maglio's input if the commission's okay with that before we definitely make a decision on this one. But if they're following best scientific practice, I personally might be inclined to be okay with this one if the commission is.
Well, they just told us that it was,
Yeah,
the
from there,
determination was how it's done now, so.
yeah.
Whatever.
I wouldn't mind seeing a little more input. I
Okay.
mean, a lot of discussion, but I mean, I'm open to the group here. That'd be my, I guess, position on it.
Feel the same? Okay.
Yeah, just move on.
All right. So we'll follow up with Mike for that one. John, I actually will ask you a question on this one, because when I was going through, it's 15316A. Control of stormwater runoff shall meet all federal and state requirements, including the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook, the requirement of the Town of Franklin subdivision of land stormwater management regulations. And then when I was reading our bylaws, the MS4 stormwater permit actually did not fall under 16A, that was under 16B, so I just wanted to be clear of what we were asking for.
Yeah, we're basically asking for, we're asking for the waiver from subdivision. The stormwater bylaw, chapter 153, refers you to the subdivision regulations for certain stormwater standards in there. So what we're asking for is a waiver from the subdivision requirements for stormwater, certain ones, not everything. In general, the stormwater management is designed to meet all the standards and treatments of both Mass DEP and the local bylaw. We're meeting all the treatment standards, all the peak flow mitigation standards. It's just some processes in there that we need to apply to DPW for approval.
And are you looking for waiver from the MS4 stormwater permit?
No.
Okay, because that was just listed under there, and I think that would put us under.
Isn't that a municipal permit?
Madam Chair, they are seeking a waiver from MS4 based on internal conversations and how I've read this.
Okay.
Sorry, what did you say?
I said, I believe you are still seeking a waiver from MS4 based on internal conversations I've had with our town engineer and town administrator.
Yeah, and actually, go ahead.
We're complying with all the treatment standards and everything else related to it. So, if there's something in there that's a process that we have to apply for, we're asking for it.
So it's my understanding of MS4 that if we do not have that, any liability from that would then fall on the town. Is that a correct
That's correct. I
understanding
had a conversation with our town engineer today, and he said that the issue with MS4 being waived is that this is a directive come down from the federal government, the EPA for the town. So for the town to waive MS4 permit for any project, the town is then assuming liability.
So that one's a hard no for me, yeah.
Well, yeah, let me follow up with Mike, because I'm very sure that it's associated with public streets. There's no component of the MS4 program that we would, not be doing. Total suspended solids removal, pre versus post runoff, all of that we're actually doing. If it's just filling out a piece of paper and getting the permit, we would not be opposed to it. But I'm pretty sure it's not applicable to a private property where the roads would never become public. But we can both check on that.
Yeah, let's get some
Yeah, I
clarification
think
on
that discharge point, actually, on the southeast portion where the intermittent stream goes into the outfall there on Grove, I think that's the main concern. Yeah.
No?
So,
Okay,
well,
maybe at that point,
yeah, I'll follow back up with the town engineer, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, all right, so let's get some follow-up on that before we make our official. And then here's our stormwater utility fee. So they are requesting a waiver from the payment of the stormwater utility fee.
Which every resident of this town pays.
And is not necessarily happy about paying.
Right.
So.
But how do you determine this?
Impervious surface.
Pervious surface, so we're going to charge from the get-go, from looking at the impervious surfaces on their plan?
So I wanted to pull some more information, so I had a better understanding on this. So our stormwater utility fees are based on assessments of stormwater and phosphorus levels in the stormwater from 2008 by the EPA, is that correct? So Franklin has one of the highest fees that we now owe the EPA based on our phosphorus levels in our water. And over the next 5 years, we are supposed to be paying back $30.5 million. Hence our stormwater utility fee that's gone into effect to try to cover some of the cost of this. And even with that, we're only bringing in 1.8 million, I believe is what the calculation comes up to be. Yeah. So we're certainly working towards it, but it's nowhere near it. The stormwater utility fee is a fee and not a tax, meaning that everybody has to pay it. Schools pay it, churches pay it, the state pays it, federal land pays it.
So why should we waive this?
My thought is that this is not one.
I don't think we have any.
I don't think we can, for one thing, but, and I don't think that each one of the people that buys a unit out there would probably be proportionately assessed a fee.
Yeah.
I
would
but I
assume
guess
that's the other.
my thought was that, and that will happen when it's completed and people are in there, then I can do that. Up to that point, when does this start?
It started a month ago, didn't it? 2 months ago?
Like, when does the fee start for them?
When does the fee start for them?
I would
mean,
assume as soon as they have
you know,
impervious
5
surface,
minutes
but I
after they
don't-
leave the building, or?
I think part of the problem is I don't know that we have the ability to.
I don't think, I think this is territory that we have limited knowledge and power over.
And we can certainly,
But I can see why they'd be worried about it.
Yeah.
This is probably gonna be a fair amount of money.
Yeah. I think we can certainly, for our knowledge, find out more. Would Derek be the one that might have the?
Yeah, so it's based on aerial imagery, so there's, that property's already, that already has a stormwater utility fee because there's a house on it.
Yeah, right.
Right, so what I imagine would happen, they're going to develop it, it's not going to kick in until probably until the project's
This moves along
finished,
and
but
gets to a point where
Exactly.
they'll be fly it again.
Yes, or until Kate and Derek drive by, because there's a Grove Street well, or everybody, well, all town staff know this project is going on. So until, they are kicked in to go out and survey.
Yeah. And it will be when there's impervious surface, whether they're clearing land but not, adding
True.
impervious surface
That's
in the
true.
beginning, they wouldn't
That
have
makes
any fee
sense.
then.
Yep.
So, we're not gonna waive that because.
It wouldn't be
I don't
equitable
think
to our
we-
citizens.
I don't think we can do
to
that.
non-citizens to waive it.
Gonna make people
Well, then we even looked at Franklin Village and the amount of impervious surface there, and they pay it as well, So I just don't think it would be equitable to
So that
everybody
will be
in
coming
town.
down the line.
Yeah. All right, so chapter 300, control of stormwater, so waiver from the compliance for the requirements of chapter 153, stormwater management of the town of Franklin's town code and the town of Franklin's best development practices guidebook. I personally feel like that guidebook was there for a reason, and the town created it as a best practice for a reason, so.
Yep.
Yeah,
Great.
agreed.
Move it along.
We've already touched on.
Chair's favor.
We've already touched on the piping, so we can, I think, skip over that.
So we're all in agreement that's gonna stay?
That will stay, yep.
Okay.
Section 311B2A, the minimum cover is 42 inches above the top of the pipe, and they're requesting a waiver on that requirement.
Of the 42 inches?
Yes. Richard, do you have any from your?
Well, from my experience, 42 inches is a big plenty.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about putting in all concrete pipe, for God's sakes. Probably a class 3, 4 concrete pipe, to say that it's minimum 42 is probably a little bit overkill.
Is there a standard
Yeah,
best practice?
But, yeah, that's what DPW has specified. You know, who are we to overrule, you know, with.
Yeah, but it's
DPW?
not, yeah. I put in thousands of feet of concrete pipe, and I'll tell you, there's a lot of times that we didn't have 42 inches over it. If you are worried about, you have a load on top of it, you increase the type of concrete pipe. You know, you got type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, type 5, which is a thicker or bigger pipe. So you design it with the application that you're putting in there. To just say that it's got to be 42 inches takes all the grunt away from being able to design the thing. But there has to be a design for the piping. You can't just throw it on the ground. It's got to be subject to the use that it's going to be put to, and what's coming over the top of it, etc. If you're just going down, it's a drain pipe where you're just going to have grass and everything over the top of it, you can be a hell of a lot more lenient about it than if you're going underneath the road.
And who has oversight over that? Is it DPW as far as how much it actually goes over that? I would assume if that's under their regulations.
That's something Mike Maglio would review.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you get some.
They gotta have some, is there just one thought that it's all 42 inches? I mean, there's gotta be,
No, I mean, he's a busy guy.
yeah, okay.
So,
I mean,
you know,
over
today-
there, they must have some kind of
yeah, I'm meeting.
sliding scale of something.
We're having a team meeting on Monday.
Yeah.
So I can pose these back to him and ask
Right.
more specific questions based on your feedback.
Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe you could modify it to a scope or something.
I'd like
Okay.
some more feedback from Mike on that, and
Sure.
maybe an area we can work with them a bit. Section 311.B2C, at each followed of a drain line, a type B winged head wall of reinforced concrete shall be constructed, and they're searching a waiver for this requirement. From my understanding, the type B winged head wall with the reinforced concrete would just provide more stability at the outfall of the drain line and
Yeah,
prevents, erosion. It's an erosion control, factor at that point.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. You need a substantial wing wall. You don't want to go, I don't know whether you could put a plastic one in, but I wouldn't do it.
Sorry, so the concrete wing walls, they're usually at the end of a culvert that's on a steep slope. It's a retaining the soil back.
Yeah, I know.
Where the pipe comes out.
Yep.
Our slopes are designed to be 3-to-1, which is a much flatter slope. So we have a flared in, concrete flared in on those that actually follows the slope.
So this is,
Of the ground. So we're not trying to retain soil back behind that.
oh, I agree. A flared in would be fine. That's what I thought that this was referring to, but this is okay.
This is a head wall that's like a vertical wall. And you would put that in a steep slope situation.
Yeah, no. No, flared end would be the perfect, we wouldn't want to make them put a head wall in every place out there. A flared end would be the preferred way to do it. It's concrete.
Madam
So
Chair.
maybe this is something we can condition in, that's.
I would say then, I would recommend that you seek more information on these waiver requests, so you're not granting a waiver for the entire project, you're granting a waiver for a very specific portion.
Okay.
Or, in your letter, you can waive all of it, that's fine too, or you just state that you would request ZBA not waive this requirement, but in the event of X, Y, Z, you are agreeing to work with the applicant. You have a
Yeah.
few different ways that you can go forward.
A flared end's a standard thing to put in.
So what are we thinking on that then? Are we gonna,
I think I need to reread that section, because it must give some more specific on slope.
It's a matter of semantics here on what we're talking about. The flared end is a concrete flared end. And it's got a Y-shaped thing, and there's some edges coming up around it, and it's an apron, so that when it comes out, it inhibits any kind of,
so we waive it, we're assuming there's that shell slope.
you wouldn't want to waive it. I would say, I would change it to and/or a flared end.
But that's kind of contingent on the slope angle, right? We don't know what all this, I mean, we know what some of the slope angles are, at least one is low angle, but we don't know all, right? I mean, I think that was kind of the.
Yeah, but you
Maybe we
wouldn't want to
I would say we say we don't waive it, but this is an area that we're willing to work with the applicant to assess each specific,
That-
point where you would need
Yeah, 'cause it all,
each outfall of each drain line that, we would
Yeah.
assess and work with them on, what best fits that.
Or ask them to itemize it, and then you respond to each itemization.
Okay.
By now, we should have a fair idea of where we're gonna need head walls, or if ever, or
Right.
flared ends.
Right. So you
In
detail that.
fact, you could probably look at it right now.
I think it's probably more efficient to just go with option A. I'm just trying to be fair and always give multiple options for you
Yeah.
to choose from.
Um,
Option A being that, what Chair Hagan stated.
I like that.
I think it'll just save time to get this letter faster to the ZBA.
Correct.
Right,
Um,
right, right, good point.
But then just saying, we will work with the applicant on this.
Perfect,
Um,
smart.
okay. Richard, does that work for you?
Sure.
Anyone else have? Okay. 311B3B, so flat top surface structures are not allowed unless the written authority of the Department of Public Works Director, they're looking for a waiver from that requirement. Have we ever waived this for any other?
I'm not sure.
Flat tops are usually used when you don't have enough room to put in a cone and a base. So you have to, if you're really short, if you're really begging for room, then you almost have to have a flat top. And that's why they probably put in, with written, they say, hey, I got a problem here, I don't have enough room to put in a cone on the manhole. Can I use a flat top? And of course, yeah, you can use a flat top. Again, it's depends on what kind of situation you got.
What are we
I
talking
feel-
about here? What's
Manhole
a
covers.
flat top structure?
Right, manhole covers, is that what we're?
A flat top, well, you got a round concrete manhole, right? And if you've popped the cork on one or looked at it, you'll notice that it's a cone. So it goes down like, comes up to a cone.
Okay.
And that's what they like, and that's, most of the time, if you got enough room, that's what you put in. You can get smaller cones, bigger cones. But if you're really hurting for room, if you only got about 5 feet right here, you can't put a cone on it, because a cone is, well, I don't know, what is it, 4, 5, 6? So you have to go to a flat top and put on.
Thanks.
It's just what you have to do,
But would
depending,
we
the
wanna
circumstances, and unless a written authority from the, so the only way you'd be doing that is, hey,
So it's not
Department
saying
of
they
Public
can't-
Works,
they
I
can't
got a
do it.
problem,
Yeah,
I need to get a waiver on that.
yeah. I don't feel like working with DPW on that should be a hard.
Sure. I don't see why that'd be a problem.
Do we want to get their perspective
So,
on this?
Well, it's already written that way, it's the flat tops are not
So it's not
allowed
saying
unless
they-
written authority from the public.
Like, what are they asking?
So I think we leave it so that
Yeah.
DPW can work with them on what's needed and make that assessment based on their expertise.
Okay.
So we leave that
If
as
you
is.
waive it, then they're gonna say, then they could just put a flat top anytime they wanted to. And that's not necessarily what they wanna do.
Okay.
Right, so we'll leave that one. DPW can make their decision there and work with the applicant on that. Section 311B3D, drain manholes shall have a
Okay, they will
4-inch
be
thick concrete
matched.
base.
Arch and-
At least one row of blocks shall be set on the base to allow the construction of a brick table within the manhole. Arch inverts of half the pipe diameter shall be sloped upward to the sides of the manhole. The tops of the main drain lines entering and leaving the manhole shall be matched. Waiver from these requirements, structures to all be per industry standards. I feel like this is, unless, Richard, you have experience, I feel like this is another.
Yeah, you gotta go
Magnolia.
down and, you gotta do some work in the bottom if you're gonna make the stuff flow through there, so, yeah, he's gotta do that. I wouldn't waive that.
Okay. And then last one for stormwater, 311B3G. Catch basin and drain manhole frames shall be at least 265 pounds and shall be of North American manufacture. Covers or grates shall be no less than 210 pounds in accordance with the standard specifications and shall be of North American manufacture. Waiver from these requirements, structure to all be per industry standards.
North American manufacturer. Oh, so they wanna buy America?
Is this one that we need more clarification for Mike?
Yeah,
Figure
no.
out why the wording on that one is, because I don't know history behind this.
Shall be North American manufacturer, not just buy America. Can't go to Canada.
Yeah. So maybe do you mind, Brico, I just for this one specifically as well, I'm just getting some feedback from Mike Maglio on.
Do we have to be North America?
I think this is
You're Massachusetts, I don't know.
This is dated.
I'm not from here.
This is really dated.
But you need a good set. I wouldn't have any problem with the rest of them.
I feel like this is gonna be, yeah, that is a long way to go, isn't it?
Do we go through, I think that was good to go through, right? Because the stormwater stuff, to your point, Jeff, I mean, you have Richard's expertise. The rest of it is wetlands.
Why don't we do this for for chapter 181 and for our regulations? I think we've all read through it, we're all familiar with our bylaws and regulations. Are there any spots
Right.
that you are comfortable with waiving?
That's what I was, yeah.
So we'll address it like that.
Basically, the way I read the rest of these is basically pushing us out of the equation.
I had,
Yes.
when we did the ANRAD,
Mm-hmm.
we went through a lot of this stuff. I mean, we laid out where the wetlands were roughly where the buildings were gonna go, and had some very intense conversations out there on our hands and knees and looking at where the wetlands was and where it wasn't. This is clearly this and this is clearly that. Hasn't any of this been clarified in that process? I tried to read through some of it and
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think it really necessarily applies, because this is looking at really more the, project moving forward.
well, no, this may require to strip a continuous undisturbed vegetation cover within 100 feet or 102 feet of resource area.
Which one are you on?
That's the buffer zone.
181.3. May require a strip of that. So all this is, okay, I see. Not necessarily will, but may.
So there's four sections that I'd like to talk about.
Okay.
I think most of them I'd recommend not waiving. And specifically the three sections on the buffer zones. And then the last one on the counting 1-inch trees.
We talked about.
Where are you at?
So the bottom of page 9 section 421,
Whoa, moving
431.
right along.
That might be, the tree size might be the easiest one.
I'm just gonna, Michael, really quickly, just to jump back to Richard's comment here, because that's just back up at 181. So I think we're all relatively comfortable with leaving 181, but when you were looking at the 181.3, so the may require a strip of continuous undisturbed vegetative cover within 100 feet or 200 feet of resource areas. Waiver from local bylaw if buffer strips were to be required. Is this an area that we could work with the applicant based on what comes out of the plan?
Well, may require.
Yeah.
I mean, that says that, yeah, let's look at what your
So,
situation
I
is.
say we leave it in, but
What-
we'll work with the applicant.
What is
on
the
this area.
situation, what does it look like right there? What's the problem?
Yeah.
What's it gonna do to you? Can we do X, can we do Y, can we do Z?
Yeah.
And from my experience, we've always been more than willing to be reasonable about not trying to deliberately
Yeah.
be hard about it.
Yeah.
So,
But
I
I-
don't know if we're gonna waive it. I mean, it's
Yeah, I don't
already.
think we leave it, but I think it's a point that we can say to the ZBA that we'd be willing to,
Yeah,
specifically
we'll
at
say,
this
yeah,
point,
we'll look at this.
We'll work with the applicant
Yep,
on this specific point.
absolutely.
That's good, put more on it.
Yeah. Is there anything else under 181 before we move into 271 that anyone else? Um,
Burden of proof. Okay.
What's your thought on burden of proof there, Richard?
I don't know, I just look at
Oh.
the local requirement to show no investment function subject by the law, waiver of authority by this such.
So if they just want to look solely on the Wetlands Protection Act and regulations thereunder rather than our local bylaws for the burden of proof, of showing no adverse effects on the local functions and characteristics.
No, we're not gonna get rid of that.
These waivers.
No, yeah, you're right, I don't
I
want
think
to
that's
waiver
reason
that.
too. All right, so down to 271. So Michael, go ahead, your comments. You were looking at were you looking at 4.2.1, looking at the buffer zones? Was that your?
Yes, and I just want to apologize for stepping on you, Richard. I'm sorry. But yeah,
I
421.
didn't even notice, so.
All the better.
I just wanted to keep it in order of where we were
Smart.
looking, so.
So 421, 431, and so what do we want to do about the 25-foot, 50-foot, and 100-foot? My understanding is that this project probably wouldn't work under our current bylaws.
Yeah.
But I'm personally,
But do you want to give a
Willing to-
global waiver?
no, not a global waiver,
Well,
but
that's
let's
what
talk
we're-
about it.
that's what we're asking for here.
Yeah, so maybe we don't waive the 25-foot.
No, I say we don't waive the 25-foot and we don't waive the 50-100, then you go to Brickley if they want, if they have a specific problem they want to deal with. As
Yeah.
opposed to us writing a global waiver saying, hey, don't worry about it.
I think it's like the other comment we made where this is something we could work with them on.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think we've always done, I mean,
Yeah.
to the Zero Bend Street.
But that doesn't require a global waiver.
I'm agreeing with
Correct.
you, yeah, I agree. I think it's good to leave in, but indicate that we're open to trying to.
Of course.
I think specifically looking at like stormwater, management and mitigation, where we can fit that into within these. So I'm in agreement, I don't think we should waive them, but I think being clear to the ZBA that this is an area that we'd be willing to work with the applicant on what goes into those said buffer zones, because I agree it wouldn't be a feasible project.
Looking at the plans
Yeah.
that they had driven, I think there's gonna be several instances where
Right.
we're gonna have to give them some slack on the 25-foot, or the damn thing ain't gonna work.
But you deal with it on a one-by-one basis, not a
Yeah.
global waiver.
And I wouldn't be against saying, well, at this point here, where you got a road crossing or the road coming up through, we're gonna have to give you some guidance there, if we can do a little something over here.
Yeah. And I think it's like.
Madam
depending
Chair?
on- Yes, Roger, sorry.
Yeah, I would agree with Rich and Jeff Mildy that, we don't want to give a blanket waiver, but there may be a case here or there that we could bend a little, but to waive the entire bylaw, if you will, it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, why are we here if we're gonna waive everything?
Good point.
You know, if you
Not
put something in
Thank
there
you.
that says, we're not gonna waive it, but we will, on
No, we're saying
a
it's
case-by-case
variance.
basis, where we review it
Variance.
to,
Yep, just the variance request.
for a variance.
25 to 50 foot.
Yep.
But it means they don't have to go to Brickell Lee. If
Yeah,
they're.
well,
We need
whatever.
to- we need to-
We look at it.
5-foot buffer.
Jeff, can I just because we have multiple, no, that's fine.
Sorry.
Did you want to was there a clarifying point that,
No, I think, yeah, you should bring that out, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Oh, no, I think we're all saying the same thing, that if they need to intrude on the 25-foot buffer, that needs to go to Brickell Lee for an approval, not, we have a waiver, where we just go and do what we want to do.
Yeah,
We've
just
all
what we said.
consulted the commissioner of the commission's agent.
yeah, yep, yeah, I agree, so, that would look at,
You know, you might want to look at the drawings. The drawings show exactly where we're looking for that. So that might help inform the decision.
Yeah, I have.
So,
yeah.
something to think about.
Yeah, so, but I think that's exactly the point, is that we have looked at the drawings, and, we'd like to be able to, have the variance request and look what those specific requests are, to make sure that, the project itself is protecting the resources the best it can within the space that it's going in, and optimizing it as best as possible. I think optimization is really kind of the word that we're looking for here. But that flexibility there, so I think we're all in agreement, we don't waive them, but it's an area that we're willing to be, work with the
Yes,
applicant on.
they've tried very hard to shoehorn all this stuff into and avoid things, but there's several instances where they just can't do it.
Yeah,
And they'll need a little slack on some of that,
yep.
and we'll be willing to give it to them.
And then, I'm sorry, Micah, you had one more, right? Was it the 718.1.5 there?
Trees? Yeah, the last one.
Yep.
Just, I know we've, if that's too onerous, there's maybe a way that we can work, so maybe we don't waive it, and we just work with them on that, just like the rest of it.
Yeah, so I know what we did for Maple Gate South there was, we said the woody plant's no larger than 3 inches, and we did just that for 0 Bent Street Wells, I believe. And
Not that
looking at the,
many trees out there. Where's the trees?
I always get
Sampling plots.
yeah, the
This is the last one.
Transect sampling.
transecting, thank you. Like, I always get it wrong. Just to make sure that we're not having them out there actually counting each individual 3-inch tree. So we can update the wording on that, leaving it in there, but with the update of, making it a feasible request on such a large property.
That's
Yeah. Or is everyone okay with the change of that to the 3-inch and?
That makes sense.
We talked
transectional
about that for
precedent?
several projects.
Yes.
Awesome, thanks, Roger. All right, is there anything else that anyone wanted to, I'm just gonna state that, under the first proposal, they're looking here, it's, section 7.14 of the replication plan and protocol. They've already offered some, replication within their, first presentation, so I don't think that's worth, we obviously wanna leave that in there, but they're already suggesting to do it anyway, so. All right, so with that, we will, follow up on Monday after, the meeting with the additional outstanding points, and I will get that letter drafted up.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
sorry to
please.
interrupt. Would you like me to blind CC all of you, or is that to you and you disseminate?
I think you just blind CC if everyone's comfortable with that, blind CC all of us, so we all have the information, we can all read it over. and
Yeah, I'd
then,
like to see it, yeah.
Yeah.
You got it.
So, you want to just quick recap, maybe?
She can't
Talk
talk
about.
No.
She kind of gets blind
We're taking up
CC.
everyone's time, so, thank you, Mark, though. We've got it recorded if we need to go back to it, and I took lots of notes, so.
It's so you guys cannot talk to each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Blind
Okay.
CC.
Yes, so we cannot talk to each other as a group
Got it,
outside of the
got it.
public hearing, so, we'll be blind CC'd so we can get the responses. I will draft a letter, to bring back. I will send it out to everybody for review, but no comment.
That's fine.
And then we'll vote on the letter at the next meeting.
You can also send it to me and I can put it up in your Google Drive in your packet.
Perfect, yep, that sounds perfect.
So we can't comment on it until,
2 weeks.
Not amongst each other.
Amongst each other. You comment to yourself all you want to, Richard. Yeah. Or you can ask Breagle Eye questions, in comments as well.
Yes.
Her door is open.
You come to my
As
counter.
I volunteered.
we've already done it.
All right, so that's where we stand for the ZBA letter. We've discussed stormwater, and you are working on emailing back and forth for a date for starting the sidewalk going forward for the delineations.
Yes.
Wonderful. Is there anything else from your perspective?
No, I think we're good. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for your time. This is a public hearing. Are there any comments or questions from the public? And anything else from the commission?
I was just wondering, how many of the 330 units are affordable?
20%? Do you know, how, 25%? How many? Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so with that, I will take a motion to continue the NOI for 121 Grove Street.
I'll give you a motion to, is it an NOI? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'll give you a motion to approve the NOI for 121 Grove Street.
Continue. To continue.
I'm sorry, you continue to February 8th at 7:10.
We'll vote to continue.
Take a
Or second.
Thanks, Richard.
And vote to continue.
Jeff?
Yes.
Vote to continue.
Continue.
Continue?
And Roger?
Continue.
Thanks, Roger. So the NOI for 121 Grove Street is continued to February 8th at 7:10 PM. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Might I interject? I would ask the commission, we have another friendly 40B presentation coming up. It will probably be maybe as lengthy, but could we have our MBZAs go first, please?
Are you amenable to that? Thank you guys, appreciate it. And thank you very much for your patience with us. And I think, Jeff, you were going to recuse yourself, so thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Chris. All right, so we are done with our public hearings for tonight. Thank you very much for your patience, gentlemen. We're going to have our MBZA for 853 Pond Street.
How you doing? My name is Mark Dipoto from Hillside Nurseries in Franklin. We're looking to do a landscape hardscape project at 853 Pond Street. And for Wheaton residents, this is Mr. Wheaton right here. And most of the work, I sent several drawings out, but I also had a larger scale drawing. I dropped off a couple of the supplementary things later today. Most of the work is going to be done in the front yard. It's mostly a front foundation makeover, where we're going to be doing the front staircase over. There'll also be a staircase that will be coming off the driveway with the brick walkway going up. Most of the work, I believe, falls within your jurisdiction, or a large portion of it does anyways. The hardscape work should not exceed any more than 370 square feet in total. Most of that will be occurring in the front yard. And then there's a little bit of work to the side yard. I think you'll see it on there. There's a large flagging path that leads to a natural snow steppers that lead down. For right now, all intents and purposes, the fire pit area and that little patio area is omitted from the project. There are two walls, one off the driveway and one off the rear. Concrete walls, and we're looking to clad those with natural veneer filled stone, and we're going to probably cap them with either a bluestone or granite capping stone as well. Regarding the wall to the rear, next to the natural stone staircase, there is the wall there's a little bit out of plumb, and for $150 to $200 in materials, I would feel better to put a little drainage. I added a little supplemental design for that. That would help take some of the surface water and maybe really give that wall a little relief, some hydraulic pressure, and that would outfall into the staircase that would be constructed and that would be filled with a lot of 3/4 stone. It'd almost be like its own leaching pit. I don't suspect there would be much
Is that
water
this?
coming off of that. Yes, yeah. There wouldn't be that much water that would be coming out of that, but it's just enough just to give a little bit of relief, any surface water that would fall down inside that wall. And then the other portion of the work would be to the rear of the property. There's about 6 trees there that would be affected. There's 2 trees that would be pruned. There'd be a large red maple that would be closest to the staircase. They're looking to remove 2 or 3 limbs off that, if I remember correctly. And then there's a large pine there that's pretty close to his addition that he actually went before the commission on some years back. There's a co-dominant leader on that tree. We had Stanley Tree come out. I looked at it. Basically, their report and my report came out pretty much the same, that we felt that tree was a little bit of a hazard. The tree creaks during the winter months. We feel as though there's a bond that breaks there at the co-dominant leader. And I think with the right conditions, and I mean, we've had kind of some really crazy weather lately, and some branches do come down off of it, and that's kind of normal for pines anyways, right? But being that it's so big, I feel, and with the weak branching structure to that, and with creek, I think it would behoove us to have that tree taken down.
If it fell down, would it hit the house?
Yeah, it potentially could, depend on which way it would go, yeah.
Well,
If it
then
fell towards the house, it would definitely hit the house.
I'd cut it down.
And then there's 2 maple trees to the right of that, which are about half alive. One of the 2 has had a very low limb on it that came off, and it's opened up, and it's susceptible to like shoestring root rot in the future and whatnot. To the right of that, heading back towards the driveway, there is a small pine that's probably no more than 8 inches in diameter, that's clustered around some larger pines that is dead, that would look to take that down. And then a larger pine to the right of that we're looking to just trim up some lower branches on. That work there is closest to the wetland. That is, all the work though, for the most part, isn't pre-disturbed. One of the maple trees has some feral growth coming around the base of it, but it's pretty young, so it looks like it was cleared or part of the yard at one point, fair to say. But we're looking, that's probably the one activity area that's closest, but everything else would be far away. I don't think anything that we would be doing would have any negative effects on the wetlands.
Are we talking like within the 25, most of these trees, or?
They are, so, let me go back. My agent report does not reflect the most up-to-date information.
Okay.
So I did seek some supplemental information from Mark here.
Yep.
So the pipe drawing that you have
Yep.
negates my comments that I had in the agent report.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did include a hand-drawn map of where the trees are on there. So they are out of the no-touch, but within 25 to 100 feet. I think something to note as well that differs from what the commission generally approves is that the stumps are proposed to be taken out. So I defer to the commission to discuss if you would like to, in addition, all stumps to be left in place. If you would like to, talk to the property owner to determine if these stumps are going to be in the middle of the lawn. They're not, they follow the wood line, but, there's recreation components to that, safety. Or if you can thread the needle and have some stumps left in place and others not. Specifically, if I were to balance and weigh all of the stumps, I would obviously say the ones closer to the wetland should be left in place. The ones further up in the lawn, no liaison, as my Tia would say, does not matter.
So, we're not proposing to remove stumps in the sense of physically digging them up.
Grinding.
It would be
Ground.
more stump grinding, so the stump, I guess in theory, would still be there, but below grade.
Yeah.
I don't know if that influences anything.
It does.
Is that for aesthetics or?
Probably, yeah, aesthetics for the most part, yeah, I would have to say. Yeah, I don't think, everything is pretty much on the line there. I don't think it really would affect the lawn.
Are these
If the
pictures
commission
the
felt
pictures
that they would want the stumps to be remained, then
I mean, that's our
I think you-
standard, if, I don't know, is that an issue for you guys, or?
would you be okay with the stumps being there, not ground.
Well, some of the,
You
these
can
are
cut
the
them
pictures.
flush, you know, just, you can cut them flush, and we can talk about ground growing plants.
If I was doing it, I'd take the stumps out, grind them out.
Yeah, I had no intention of bringing an excavator back there to pull it out.
No,
But I-
no, no, no.
Some of the trees there, like, that pine especially,
That pine needs to, you want to use the lawn after you take that out.
that's right on the edge too. It is on the edge of the lawn.
Yeah.
But I.
You grind it out, fill it back in, and plant it.
We would be happy, but we weren't, just to be clear, we weren't seeking to pull them physically out and create a cavity and disturb a lot of ground.
Yeah. You did say, you did write grinding, that was just, it's been a long night, sorry.
No, it's fine. The nuance is on. And that pipe would be smaller than 42 inches.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Thank you. And we said all of these trees are on
They're on the,
yeah, I'm looking at the pictures right now.
if I may,
Yeah, please, thank you.
What?
it's just along that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Do we have approximate how far that closest tree is to the wetland there? Ish?
Yeah. Based on GIS, it's about 40. So this is one that came in on my leave, so I did a
Yeah.
very light site visit, just to confirm it was not right on the wetland line,
Yeah.
outside of the 25-foot and an existing district. But
Are you guys okay with the stump grinding as long as the trees
I
are
am.
pre-existing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Would the commission want some of the stump grindings to remain? To cover, the whole, that way it could decay down?
we can talk to your
Okay.
property owner and we can work something out of, so I'm fine with that.
Matter. I mean, habitat or no habitat, stumps are gone, doesn't matter.
True.
As long as we're not pulling in big machinery to
Yeah,
pull out the sand.
that's the issue,
Yeah.
Yep.
All right,
Recommend approval with standard conditions for MBCA's, which is stumps to remain in place, which,
yeah. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Okay, well then I will take a, motion to approve the MBZA for 853 Pond Street, with standard conditions.
I'll give you a motion to approve. Where is that?
It's the same thing. MBZA for.
The MBZA for
853 Pond Street.
853 Pond Street, as stated.
Second.
Vote to approve.
Approve.
Vote to approve.
Approve.
Roger?
Approve.
Thanks, Roger. All right.
Approve.
MBZA for 853 Pond Street is approved with standard conditions.
Thank you, folks.
Thank
Have a
you
good
all.
night.
Thank you for hanging with us
Thanks for your
tonight.
patience.
Appreciate it.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Tyler, would you mind just grabbing Jeff for us, letting us know? I'll give you his number to text him.
I have heard this, I'm just going to make it off the restroom.
You go right ahead.
By the way, he was one of the best commissioners we've ever had.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no way. He was absolutely brilliant. He was on for years, years and years.
Oh, the guy that went just, oh, is that right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he's brilliant for plants. It was great to have him because he was everything.
Sorry, was a recording, a recess requested, or?
Briglette's just running to the bathroom. I'm just gonna wait for Jeff to come in and we will jump right in.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Recording is still going, just,
Okay, thank you. So we are just waiting for a commissioner to return from recusing himself from the last project, and we are going to open up our general business of our friendly 40B LIP for 444 East Central Street. And this is a proposal for a new friendly 40B at 444 East Central Street. we'll have our preliminary proposal.
What's LIP? Sorry.
Sorry?
What's LIP?
It is the process that the town goes through, and I'm gonna have to ask Nikolai what the actual letters stand for.
It stands for the Local Initiative Program.
Thank you.
It's a state program for outlining the process for friendly 40Bs.
Thanks.
So the town has come together with, you know, a process and us reviewing this and making a recommendation letter, so similar to what we just did for 121 Grove. We'll have the presentation, they discussed a few waivers, we'll review that and send a letter to EPA as well for this.
Thanks.
So, go ahead, guys. Thanks for waiting for us.
No problem. Thank you for waiting for us. And I know it's late, so we'll try to speed this up so everybody can go home. My name is AJ Alavisos. I'm here on behalf of the applicant Tag Central LLC. I'm also here with Chris Frattaroli, if I said that correctly.
You did.
Perfect. He's with Goddard Consulting. He's our wetland consultant on this project. Just to give you a quick overview of where the project's at in terms of process with the town before I hand it off to Chris. We're currently going through the preliminary initial review with the town pre-permit filing. So we haven't applied for a comprehensive permit yet with the zoning board. So this process is a collaborative process with the Planning Board and Conservation Commission to present the project to you guys, get initial feedback, and then we have a meeting with the town council to vote on whether this project proceeds with a comprehensive permit filing at a later date or not. We've already had a technical review meeting with Brika Lee. She was in attendance, and we took that feedback from that initial meeting, revised some design items that we had, studies, and did some additional studies as well. And now we have Chris here to present the wetland aspects of the project to you guys. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. So, quick overview. Obviously, 40B, we have 25% affordable units, which amounts to 67 units out of the total 265. That you can see the breakdown there between 1, 2, 3 bedrooms. There's going to be some traffic improvements included, traffic light timing, signage, road markings, improved accessibility along sidewalks. Moving forward, we have this site down here towards the bottom right of this graphic, just to orient you to the locus. You know, very nearly right across the street here. Good proximity to restaurants, groceries, etc.
And this is the current home to Stobart's Landscape Nursery, just to get everyone oriented.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes, so.
Stobart's is going away, huh?
Indeed it is.
Sorry, what's going away?
Stobart's.
The nursery, this is the site where Stobart's is, yep.
We're looking at their demise.
So here we have kind of a conceptual schematic of what we hope the site will look like. We have 5 residential buildings, 1 clubhouse building up towards the front. Obviously over on the right here, this is East Central Street. So this is actually north is to plan right here. Variously accessed through the site, parking, etc. 358 parking spaces. We have some sort of nature-based initiatives that we're planning. We are looking to establish some private walking paths along the river. We're probably going to be implementing invasive species management, both as an initiative to clean up the site and make it more appealing, as well as probably in terms of restoration or mitigation for the riverfront area on the site. That's also going to include native plantings in the riverfront area and the buffer zone. There are a couple of small IVWs, and we'll get into that a little bit more later on, that will be replicated. Right now, the site is pretty substantially degraded. There's going to be removal of a wide variety of dump piles, C&D waste, debris, etc., as well as compliance with the stormwater standards. So here, our kind of our major consideration is going to be the 200-foot riverfront area. The site is pretty much bisected by a river. The wetland lines that are drawn on here were from kind of a preliminary reconnaissance that Goddard did. We don't have precise delineations yet, but these lines were basically walked, traced with GPS, and shown with GIS software here. So they're not perfectly precise, but they're a very good representation of what we expect to find when we actually do a delineation. So in total on site, there's about 375,000 square feet of riverfront area. About 175,000 square feet of that is presently degraded with impervious area, buildings, junkyards, rusted out vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. There's pretty much every manner of debris you can imagine on this site. So that's primarily in the eastern side of the riverfront area here. It's to the right. It's also really a who's who of the invasive species of North America. On the right side, it's especially Japanese knotweed. There's a lot of compost dump piles that are really conducive to those things growing. There's really no wetland along the river on the east side here. There's impervious, hard-packed gravel, debris very nearly right up to the bank of the river. On the western side, it's slightly more natural, but over there we have essentially the remnants of their historic nursery grow operations. So you see these interesting patches of dead straight rows of all the same tree species. You know, they're largely landscape plants that were never harvested, never sold. So it's a little bit of a strange situation, but we're calling it, for now at least, non-naturally vegetated. It is vegetated, you know, mature trees and all, but they're not native species that you would like to see in a natural forested area in New England.
So basically it was bought as is, effectively, right?
Essentially, yes. Yes, trees and all.
I see.
And that's really, you're saying that's a river, so it's you got the 200-foot.
Correct, yeah, it is mapped as a perennial stream on the USGS, and Stream Stats seems to corroborate that it is perennial. And so just by way of this graphic here, you can see the kind of yellow hatched areas are those really degraded areas, dump piles, construction debris, et cetera. And then those gray hatched areas are going to be your invasive species cover, non-native landscape plants, and that sort of thing. And then here we have, this is really just an overlay of that site schematic that I showed earlier. That yellow shaded area is basically the footprint of the buildings, driveways, et cetera, kind of all lumped into one polygon there. So it is going to be essentially pulling back a bit from the river itself. We're hoping to establish a nice native vegetated buffer there, both for aesthetics and to comply with the regulations. It's going to be cleaned up in a variety of ways. And so this is essentially what we're looking at for post-development conditions, in terms of footprint at least. I wanted to include some photos here because it's a large site, not super accessible, and I think it's important to understand the extent of what the site looks like right now. So there's, I think the pictures kind of speak for themselves, but there's every manner of construction, demolition, waste, pallets, stone, old trailers, rusted out vehicles. Keep moving on. It's really just about every invasive plant species you can think of. On the left side there, you know, you've got carpets of mugwort. On the right photo, mugwort in the foreground, Japanese knotweed in the back left, Phragmites in the back right. That photo on the left there, you can see one of those unusually straight rows of landscape trees. And on the right, you can see some of those fill piles, again, prime habitat for things like Japanese knotweed. Just to really quickly walk through the riverfront standards, this is going to be treated as a redevelopment project. The site has been in use as a nursery since at least the 1960s. You can look back on aerial and see those things. We do firmly believe this is going to be an improvement over existing conditions by way of cleaning up those dump piles, all the C&D waste, management of invasive vegetation. We're going to be absolutely meeting all the DEP stormwater management standards. Work will not be closer to the river than existing conditions because existing conditions are essentially on the bank of the river itself. We're going to be hopefully pulling that back and establishing more of a vegetative buffer there to the river.
Ask you a quick question.
Absolutely.
Certainly understand, how that works, but I'm just curious, so you get that 61 unit 4-floor building and the access road looks like it's going to be closest to the west side of the riverbank. Just how close approximately would you say that's going to be?
I think it might make sense to go back.
Yep, there you go.
Is this the building you're talking about, or this side?
Yep.
That's approximately 45 feet away, setback from the edge of bank.
Okay. Thanks, I appreciate it.
No problem. So, obviously, we've tried to keep work outside of the riverfront area to the greatest extent that we can, but unfortunately, the vast majority of the site is within riverfront area. So, we're a little bit limited in that regard, but we're fully intending on complying with all the riverfront redevelopment standards. Moving down the list, based on the kind of calculations that we've done thus far, the proposed degraded area and existing degraded area, they're within a few thousand square feet of each other, which at this point is really a rounding error. So it's going to be close either way. There's ample opportunity for restoration and mitigation, and we fully expect to be providing that. Hopefully, as much restoration as possible, mitigation if necessary. And then the last point here, those restored and or mitigated areas are required to be monitored, and we fully intend to monitor them and submit those reports to you. We also have floodplain located on the site. This has not been field verified yet, so the GIS layer that is shown here is really an approximation. It really actually, that polygon approximates the BVW fairly well. So we don't expect it to really be a major issue, and I think we'll be located outside of it mostly, but there's plenty of room to provide compensatory storage if there does need to be fill in the floodplain at any of these areas. This survey is still kind of working through getting full topo, so this will be more firmly pinned down in the coming days or weeks. That green polygon is the 100-year floodplain, so that constitutes BLSF. And we're gonna try to avoid that as much as possible. We also think that the wetland replication area that we're planning on constructing will also provide flood storage, so that's kind of a double benefit there. And then this, just to kind of wrap it all up, we've got the side-by-side, kind of pre and post. So on that left side, you can see those degraded areas in the hatched yellow and those strangely vegetated areas in the hatched gray, and then compared to post-development over on the right.
Not gonna do anything for traffic.
There was...
I was gonna say, Chris, can you just walk me through a little bit about the stream crossing?
Yeah, sorry, that slide must have gotten skipped here somehow.
That's fine.
There is one stream crossing on the site. You can see it here with that yellow arrow. The idea is to reuse that crossing. It probably needs to be repaired or replaced to some extent. We don't exactly know what extent yet. So we're gonna reuse the same crossing in the same location. It'll probably have some impacts to bank or BVW, at least temporarily for construction. If it needs to be enlarged for emergency access or whatever it may be, there may be a slight increase in permanent bank or BVW impact there, but that's really the only permanent bank or BVW impact that we expect on this project.
So one would assume there's a culvert underneath that crossing,
There is indeed, and it's
and you're assuming that it's a nice spiffy culvert that you're gonna reuse?
Yeah,
No.
That'll be the height.
No, not at all.
If you
That
will.
will be replaced,
So
hopefully
you're gonna dig
enlarged.
that all up and put a new, whatever
A
in
new
there
box
and-
culvert,
and
concrete
fill it
box
back
culvert
in.
up to modern standards, yes.
Yep, so that'll improve hydraulic connectivity, it'll provide better passage for wildlife and all those things that we're looking for on these types of things.
Was it just like dirt with grass crossing right now?
Yeah, so that picture on the right, it was the best picture I had for my site visit. That's standing on the culvert, so it's kind of like grassy, gravelly.
Okay.
It's not asphalt paved.
Yeah.
Packed gravel.
Yeah.
It's what Del Carte used to be. Yeah. Those are the Del Carte dams.
Yeah, I
So there's I
But it
believe
works.
a small culvert pipe under there. So the intention is definitely to open that up.
And then you said the IBWs are likely gonna be filled, but you're replicating?
Yeah, so let me see. This is a little laggy at the moment for some reason. This one shows the IBWs. They're these green polygons, 1, 2, and 3. These two on the right, I think, have kind of developed as a result of fill piles blocking natural runoff. But in any event, they have wetland vegetation, they have wetland soils. The 3 of them together measure about 1,500 square feet. So we intend to replicate at 2 to 1, and that replication area will be down in this bottom left corner here, kind of along the BVW. There's also this other IBW just off-site. This is a stormwater basin, but I think I didn't go look at it too thoroughly because it's off-site, but I do believe it's got wetland vegetation, and I would expect hydric soils as well.
It's hard to see from the picture. Does the river actually go underneath 140?
Yeah, the river goes under the road. So you can see up here, this was just really drawn in from aerial, but you can see that stream on the other side of the road, and then it's culverted down.
Thanks.
What actions on the other side of the river down below, bottom of your picture?
Down below here, it opens up into a pretty expansive wetland system.
Conservation land.
Yeah, so the river itself, I don't believe, continues to flow in a particularly defined channel, but it does, you can see pretty much that entire south property boundary there is really all wet.
Okay.
And it extends in both directions, east and west.
Oh. Chris, do you yet have buffer impact zone quantified?
Not quite yet, we're a little early out on that.
Yep.
We think there will be impacts to some of those inner buffer zones, but that's really only because those buffer zones are already impacted. So the goal is to really pull that back and establish some nice natural vegetation in those inner buffer zones.
Okay. Any questions from the commission? And we're all digesting it.
Good for now.
Might be some good bricks and stuff down there, maybe I ought to go down and take a look.
There's a lot of stone down there if you're looking for some. Yeah.
So, Fricka, can you, in the process, there are waivers that are being requested, is that correct?
Yeah, there's a handful. They're really just some of the local bylaw things that are not already included in the WPA. And I think a lot of those things are gonna be complied with anyway.
I promise there's not 45 of them.
I was gonna say, from what I've seen, it's a fraction of what we just looked at,
Yes,
so.
yes.
So how we just did our I know that, if I understand the LIP process is a 30-day window, is that correct?
Yep.
So how we just did it for the previous one, because this, at least for myself, and I think the majority of the commission is a newer process, as we haven't really had many of these in front of us since, reaching the 10% here, so. How it worked for our last one, if you're amenable to this, is that we had the presentation, we went home and not to take up anyone's more time, we, reviewed and came prepared to talk about the waiver requests, and then we'll go home and write, so it's basically, it would be outside of that 30-day window. If we were to then come back, discuss next meeting, I write the letter, and we just have to come back and vote it in that third meeting. Are you amenable to that? Do you want us to try to stay within that 30-day window and look at the waiver request now? What is your timeline looking like? So I can even give you dates here, so that would be the 8th being the next meeting of February, so then the 22nd, we'd vote in the letter and have it over to.
So I'll just tell you, the process that we kind of outlined with planning board, because we just had a hearing with them Tuesday. This is a new process for us too, so
Okay.
we're still
Working through it.
getting our arms around it with them. But what we discussed with planning was they would issue a comment letter potentially next week, early next week, like a week after the hearing, which we have with them on Monday. And then, based on that comment letter, we would prepare a response letter with, some revised studies and drawings, and resubmit, prior to the next hearing, which we scheduled with them for the 26th.
Okay.
So it's a month after, our first hearing with them. That way we can have a productive second hearing, where we have something, some sort of feedback for you guys, from your feedback provided to us.
Okay. So then we'll have, 26th of February, or 26th as in tomorrow?
February.
Okay.
Yep.
So would that work for you then if we then come back with a letter being voted in by the commission for the 22nd?
So does the letter need to be voted in before you guys can circulate a letter to the
So,
applicant?
sure, let me go back.
Okay,
So the
thank you.
process that you're seeing right now with 121 Grove Street is a part of their NOI. They submitted waiver requests, they submitted proposed waiver requests, a part of the LIP process. They're already way past the LIP process. So they were the first project in front of the town that's now a part of this LIP process.
Okay.
Both boards did stay within that 30-day timeframe. So the commission heard the project, Pat drafted a letter, you opined about it, we're late, I understand, but you opined about it at that time, he drafted a letter, and then you approved it. So vote, however you want to do. I like voting, I think it looks good on the books, but, this process I seem to like even better. So what he's proposing is that you draft a letter within the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
That is delivered to him, so that at the following meeting, you can actually discuss changes. So he's willing to go the extra step now
Okay.
to have a more complete holistic view,
Yep.
to, bolster the letter of support and to move the project along further. So to that point, I believe you will be in planning board for 3 meetings, so acquiescing to outside of that 30-day time frame, but moving the project farther along.
Yeah, and speaking with the town, we understood from the last 40B process that went through this recently, there wasn't a ton of back and forth during this process before they got to town council. So when town council voted, they didn't really have a good idea of where they stood, because the applicant, I guess, didn't respond to many comments during this process. So I wanted to make sure that we had time to work with you guys and go back and forth a bit, where we can. And as for the third planning board meeting, I was kind of hoping we could get their comment letter and potentially respond to it in advance of the second meeting, which
Sure.
is on the 26th, and have very little to discuss
Sure.
following that. So I would say if the third meeting's necessary, we can discuss then at the 26th hearing, but that was sort of what I was hoping that would happen.
So that's probably just my I was on leave, so I thought you had already been I thought this past meeting was your second meeting in front of
understood.
planning board.
Yeah,
so
that was
that's
our
my
first.
fault. Oh, okay, good. We're right on schedule then.
So I know our letter then is just like an overall recommendation letter, more for town council rather than, are we looking at variance requests at this point, or is that not really part of what we're
I think you can opine about it. So the last letter, the way that conservation strategized it was having a letter of approval with recommendations instead of having a letter of denial because of these reasons. Same message, one is more positive than the other. So I think if, with more information that you have now, you know, you can provide more of those recommendations. And I think that will be well received and a guiding directive for town council.
So I'm looking
There
at
it is,
the
yeah.
picture here, and the shading in yellow isn't the full footprint, right? It's just the full footprint within the riverfront area.
Correct, yes, within your jurisdiction.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any thoughts on the project before we jump into quick discussion on waivers?
Full speed ahead.
Are these going to be apartment-style units, or the like duplex units, or?
Yeah, they're gonna be traditional apartments. So there's gonna be a 3-story building, which is on the east, furthest to the east, that's more horizontally oriented towards Central Street. And then we have 4-story buildings for the balance of the 4 other buildings. 4-story will have elevated, buildings, double-loaded corridor, wood frame apartment buildings. And then the 3-story will likely be a walk-up building. I wish, next time we'll bring elevations to the next hearing. They're sample elevations, so you can get an
Just
idea
curious.
of what it's gonna look like. We'll bring that to the next hearing. And I will just say, obviously it's a different department, but the fire department has reviewed this site plan. We coordinated with this, with them on this site plan to make sure we added all the fire access pieces that they need. We reoriented the site plan to meet their needs. And they confirmed via letter to the planning board that they had no further comments at this time, in regard to fire safety. So we did incorporate all their additional fire access roads within this site plan, so what you're reviewing, complies with what they want to see there, so.
That's something we've seen in the past. We take these kind of like long pieces of property that are really frontage, and go back trying to get that fire truck back into and
Yeah.
around the buildings can be really tough.
Yeah, we looked at that closely with them.
All right, so just to jump into waiver requests, so we can kind of include our thoughts on here, in their letter. Only stormwater, waiver request is, chapter 153. For the entire chapter 153, is that, I'm reading that, or is that just? Sorry. It's a customer review waiver request for a 40-week proceeding, as the regulations mandate, the zoning board of appeals is required to act in place of all local permits granted by authorities as part of the issuance of a comprehensive permit, special permit under Mass DEP stormwater guidelines. Can you clarify if that's all of chapter 53 that you're requesting?
We're just pulling it up
Oh,
right
sorry,
now,
yeah.
scroll all the way down to,
On page 13,
Sorry.
I think.
I think it's section 17, if I remember off the top of my head. That doesn't make sense, is it?
the
Oh, stormwater. Is this the one we're speaking on?
Yeah.
153?
So,
Page 17. The page 17? I don't know. Go ahead.
Or,
No, you were there.
Yeah,
I was
okay,
wrong.
okay.
You're fine.
so I believe this is really just, asking for a waiver from that local stormwater approval. The project's still gonna comply with the DEP standards. And so this is really just saying that, you know, ZBA is empowered to act on that rather than.
Yeah, just to expand on that, there's certain additional approvals within the bylaw, chapter 153, that is already going to be governed or handled by the zoning board of appeals, because in a 40B, the zoning board of appeals acts as a comprehensive permit granting authority rather than going to various town departments like DPW or other departments that would issue local approvals for stormwater management. We're just getting one comprehensive permit approval from the zoning board of appeals. So I think that's what this is speaking to.
So then under this, if we waive this, is that then, so looking at like what we just looked at for 121, like MS4 and all those requirements, is that saying we're waiving those requirements, or just the ZBA approves it instead of,
So,
is that the request?
I think procedurally, right now where we're at, we're not at the point of actually granting waivers. We're just
Kinda looking at what that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. I will note, you know, I'm being fair, but I do like how this is set up. There's an explanation there.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
And
proposal.
Is this
first
the-
impressions, I feel like we can work
Yes.
on this project. So,
Is this the extent of the
I
waivers?
am feeling
There's
like
a,
relaxed right now.
yes.
we do go down.
I'm not feeling the
further.
stress. I'm not, yeah.
Well, it's not 7 pages.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, that we chose not to take that strategy.
That'd be a good idea.
It doesn't seem like a great strategy.
And I think we
In
learned
my-
a bit
in
from
my
the
opinion.
earlier presentation as well.
As a friendly 40B, I don't get it, but.
there's a lack of friendly in
Very
there.
friendly.
So
But
a
I-
lot of them are in reference to the waiving activities in the buffer zones. But I think typically what we like to do is, we work with you. You know, we don't like to typically waive that, but work with you.
For sure.
Within
Yeah.
those buffers.
We're absolutely amenable to that.
All right,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and the goal, again, is really to pull back from the resource areas
yeah.
and the
Yeah.
work that's gonna be required for that, rather than expanding into the buffer zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
We're actually pretty nice people.
I've been to at least a few of your hearings, I know you guys are.
One or two.
You guys are.
I will say I thoroughly appreciate the presentation, because I did call Rico Eye when I very first looked at the project. It was just what I saw, and I was like, what is happening here? And I didn't realize how much degradation there was, and, you know,
Yeah.
to the project. So I appreciate the work that's already been thought out about how to, you know, mitigate and restore.
Well, it was the same family for like the entire time, right?
You're correct, yeah.
Yeah, that's been there for
It's like an institution.
years and
It
years.
is.
I mean,
Analysis, that might be.
been here for 40 years, and it's always been here. Of course, it was a bit more of
I
a
mean, are we
going
able to
operation
say,
back
as
then.
far as this letter, that
not-
we've reviewed this and we are, you know, amenable to be, you
I'm
know,
just
working
doing
with the applicant going forward
I ain't
on
gonna do anything for traffic.
decisions, or do you think you're looking for more specific?
That's fine. If I recall correctly, planning board for their previous letter, again, just referencing
Yeah.
what has been done before, I think it was 1 or 2 pages. We had Chair Gallagher at the time, so it was definitely legalized. So he quite successfully expanded 2 pages into, I think, like 6 or 7.
Of course he did.
So,
I've read Pat's work.
yes. You know, and his recommendations were really not far from what you're recommending, you know, recommending.
Yeah.
We'd like to adhere to local bylaw, but, you know, we'll work with the applicant. I think since these letters are letters of support and they are not as technical as what may otherwise be required by the commission, I think it's okay to opine and just say you know, you got a good feeling, or you have confidence, or you don't have confidence, you know, how was the presentation? Because I do think that matters.
Yeah.
And this letter is a conduit to town council. So include everything that you would like to tell them that you could not tell them offline.
Okay. So, I don't know if you guys wanna, do you wanna, something to say from?
Well, I mean, I guess what I'd say, I mean, with all the degradation, I mean, I think there's a lot of leeway here, so I think, you know, there's, you know, the verbiage that, hey, we can work with you guys within this and find a way to figure this out, you know, something probably more appropriate in writing, but I felt pretty good about that.
It's not a pristine site.
No.
The pictures are quite helpful to see what that looks like, because I've never been back there,
It's
so.
not like Grove Street.
Yeah, yeah. So are we in agreement then that we, reviewed the presentation, we are happy with the amount of thought and effort that's already been put into, restoration of pre-disturbed, riverfront area, and are, you know, have reviewed the waiver requests and are, you know, want to keep our bylaws in place, but are happy to work with the applicant.
I just had a couple questions.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I know it's late, I'm sorry.
No, absolutely.
I just want to
I'm
get
gonna check
a
my
little
pages
more
or whatever.
detail about what's planned in the 25-foot
Yeah.
and the 50-foot.
Sure thing. And back over here. So this one doesn't show those buffer zones specifically, but what we've done on the western side to start with is really just try to avoid that as much as possible. We don't have, obviously, we don't have exact delineations yet. We've kept it about 50 feet away from the wetland on that side. Still within riverfront area, but at least trying to avoid that buffer zone to
That's
the
nice.
extent that we can.
Yeah.
That I think that most likely what you'll see for activity in the riverfront area, or sorry, in the buffer zones over here, might be some temporary disturbance for site work and that sort of thing. But primarily it would be invasive species management or restoration of some sort. And similar in concept on the eastern side as well. Yeah, I mean, you can even see it in the aerial here. There's debris pretty much right up to the edge of the river. So a lot of that work, again, is going to be to clean up those areas, pull it back, provide some plantings. You know, we had talked about including some walking paths in there to be able to enjoy the area a little bit more. So that's really the extent of what we're talking about, at least in those very tight inner buffer zones. As we get out a little further, we do have building footprint and some pavement, but we've tried to keep that within previously degraded riverfront area to the greatest extent that we can, and B, to the outer side of those buffer zones as well.
But it does look like there's probably some stuff in the 25-foot on the right side, is it there?
Correct, yeah, there is a bit there. It's gonna be reuse of previously degraded area. So that was really the thought on that, and
Chris, am I wrong, did you say that building is 45 feet on that right riverbank from,
The building, but then
Yeah,
the
and-
parking lot is closer.
Yeah.
like up here, you mean?
No, the parking lot's on the other side. I did have the direction wrong. We're on the east side.
Yeah, the parking lot's on the other side.
Yeah, so that might be more of an alignment issue with the graphics than anything. It is gonna be fairly well separated here.
Okay.
So I think what we could say is, within the 25-foot, we're proposing probably some parking, and maybe that fire access road that goes a little bit behind the building out to the right.
Oh, yeah.
Might be within it slightly, but we're not proposing any buildings within the 25-foot buffer zone.
Thank you. Okay, that's good to hear, thanks.
So
But
that,
to clean the site up, you're gonna have to get right down into
Oh,
the
yeah,
water.
we're gonna be doing work within it, absolutely, to clean it
It's a-
up.
It's a,
And to build those trails if it's something that you
I was
guys
just down there today.
would let us
as a
do.
matter of fact.
for context,
To
if
shoot
I
house
may,
pass.
Madam Chair, all well and good, I think you should maintain, your regulations, that's your jurisdiction, that's fine. They will be needing a variance request for relief from impervious surface, then also within 50 to 125 to 50. Just putting it on your radar now, so when it comes down the pipeline, it's not a surprise.
Thank you.
Do you have more, yep, do you have concerns that you want noted in the letter?
Not concerns, just, is there any way to get further from the wetlands, or have you pretty much optimized that already?
It's not a nice place to go.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've sort of maxed that out, and frankly, we actually, while the site in its entirety is extremely dilapidated and pretty much a junkyard, the stream itself is beautiful. So our idea was to clean up the area around the stream and then the site in its entirety, and revitalize that stream and use it as sort of a natural amenity feature for our residents. So the idea would be we kind of put those buildings within the degraded, we used where the degraded zones were to base our site plan, because we wanted to maximize usage of the degraded areas as best as possible per the Wetland Protection Act. So, but at the same time, it does have that benefit of views and such for our tenants, so.
Was there going to be
Thank
any
you.
public access to the river, excuse me, to the river when done, or just private for the residents?
Just private for the residents, that's what we're intending on.
So I did, Mark, you caught me smiling earlier, and this is something that I ruminated on after tech review. We have conservation land to the south. So whether or not, please keep your blood pressure low, whether or not that means increased impact, increased recreation, or an opportunity for the future, maybe for public parking, maybe that increases public spaces or parking spaces, and that's not something we want. But there is all the same an opportunity there.
Which conservation land is?
It's not named, it's just conservation. It's wet, it's a wetland complex, so it would be above and beyond to install a boardwalk or anything like that, but there's the opportunity to extend your walking paths or to have a viewing point.
So their project would offer potential access for us to create routes of passive activity in that.
You're talking the land that's
Yeah.
south of the site plan,
Yeah.
like south
Yeah.
of the furthest fire access road?
Yes.
Where the wetland replication is, and then on the other side as well? Okay.
Exactly. It's a fairly large, and looking at aerials, deep wetland complex, so I wouldn't suggest going around the entirety of it. You never would be able to anyways, because a private resident owns the eastern portion of the wetland complex, and then there's, I believe, a town well on the other parcel.
Okay.
But it, all the same, at least viewing, if not for Franklin residents, at least for yours.
Yeah, that's definitely something we would be interested in discussing further.
So just something to consider. I'm all about
Keeping his blood pressure low, he's really interested in thinking about it.
Well, it depends, I didn't know what area you were.
interested in thinking about
My
it.
blood pressure rose a little bit when I heard that first. I didn't know what area she was talking about at first, and then when I clarified that, I was like, okay, got it.
I always start with the worst to
Yeah.
see if I lose people, and then I tie it up. So just little tips of how I speak. Just
He said he was gonna do it, I said he was gonna think about it.
oh, and that's fine. That's all.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other thoughts that you wanna have involved in said letter? All right, I'll
Let's
get that
just-
drafted up then. I'll send it to you.
That works.
Does the commission feel like they need to see it before I send it off, or we just?
We gotta
agree
get
that
it
I will
mailed
include what-
before 12.
Pretty
Trust me.
straightforward.
Cool.
All right, send it to me. I'll send it to you.
So, it sounds like we might not need to have a second meeting. If it's warranted, we're happy to attend one, potentially, if possible, the same week as our planning board meeting, which would be February 26th, so the week of that same week would be great. But if it's not necessary for another meeting, then we don't need to attend one or schedule one, but maybe schedule one just in case. But if the letter isn't going to have comments to us
Sure.
on changes to make, then I don't know if meeting a second time would be
I mean, I don't foresee
productive.
any changes to request at this point?
I have one actually.
Okay.
Only that there is a 100-foot buffer zone to BLSF under local regs, so it might just be something to extrapolate on the plans, just in the event it is jurisdictional. That was it. I didn't see it on there.
I don't think they've even mapped out buffer zones.
Not buffer zones. They have floodplain.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
So, yep,
Sorry, yeah.
yep. So under the local bylaw, there's actually a buffer zone to floodplain.
yes,
Yeah.
okay.
That's all. And then it helps them actually start projecting option A, option B, option C for what type of replication they need to do, what they want to do, how they're going to calculate that, so.
Yeah.
So, from my perspective, if you don't feel like, we'll include that in the letter, if you don't feel like you need to discuss that any further, then I think we're good to.
Then might I ask, for transparency purposes, you draft the letter and then you all just
Have a look
vote
at it.
on it at the next meeting on February 8th, and then you have it for planning board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd be comfortable with them seeing a draft beforehand, in
Sure.
case they have questions
That
before we
would be,
meet, if
that
that
would
works
be
for you.
terrific.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, in case there's any questions, and then we can all discuss it at public hearing.
Yeah, the idea for us, just in the process going forward, Rika at least said it right, but, you know, we're going to town council and they're looking to you as the Conservation Commission and the planning board for guidance on whether this is a good project preliminarily or not to move forward, at least with applying for a formal permit. So, in that letter, you know, if it states, you know, the project after it goes through a notice of intent and a full order of conditions process, preliminarily, it looks like, you know, it could be achievable. That's kind of what we're looking for.
Excellent. All right, well, I think that's it for me. Does anyone have any other questions or comments? All right, well then. Go ahead
Thank you
and-
very
I know,
much.
like, I don't need to
Thank
close
you.
anything. It's not a public
All right, let's
hearing.
get out of here.
Thank you. Please go home and get to sleep. Yes, thanks for your time and for.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
We'll speak to you soon. All right, we'll move on to permit modifications and extensions. We've got for 515 West Central Street.
Yeah, they never reached back out. They requested a continuance to today. I don't have anything, so it's really up to you if you want to close it or just continue it again. I know it's in the works. I have a good feeling that they might, you know, just submit something next Tuesday and it would be on the following agenda regardless.
Because this is, we already approved half of it, right, for this
Yeah.
modification, so we're just waiting for the other half.
Yeah.
I'd hate to close it when it's half approved.
I think so too. And they've
Yeah.
been pretty good and transparent.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah, let's keep it open. We'll continue it until February 8th. And then, do we need a motion to continue? But no, because it's not a public hearing, right?
No.
All right.
You would, because actually this is an amended
Oh, okay.
order of conditions. Yeah.
All right, and I'll just say if we don't hear from them for the February 8th meeting, then I would be comfortable with, yeah,
That sounds good.
denying for now. But, so at this point, can I have a motion to continue the permit modification for 515 West Central Street to February 8th?
Second.
I need a
Vote to
motion.
continue.
So moved.
I'll give you a
Okay.
motion.
Thank
you. Motion to continue.
We're all tired.
The permit modification for 515 West Central Street.
Second,
Thank you. Richard, how do you vote?
to continue.
Yeah, please continue.
Continue.
Vote to continue.
Continue,
Doing parallel
continue.
processing now, guys, trying to get out.
And Roger?
Continue.
Thanks, Roger.
Continue.
All right, minutes for January 11th. Does anyone have any questions or comments from the
I have
minutes?
several. I'm joking.
Did you see my face? I felt that.
And the can started to fly. That's right.
Motion to approve the minutes from January 11th. Anybody?
Motion to
Second.
approve the minutes from January 11th, 2024.
Second.
Second,
How do you vote,
vote,
Richard?
vote to approve.
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 Roger?
Approve.
Thank you.
Approve.
You can put on hold the discussion items if you want.
Is there anything that is
No.
urgent?
No.
Excellent.
I'd like to buy the audio moth.
Oh, good. I got one person that said
What is, wait, okay, I'll tell you.
Okay.
What is the IU, what is an IU?
Okay,
Let's just quickly cover this one and check this off the list for next time.
okay. So, real quick, Eclipse Soundscapes is a nonprofit organization that is funded through a grant from NASA, and they have been monitoring how eclipses, whether total or partial, solar or lunar, how they impact wildlife. And if you don't know, we have a total solar eclipse coming April 8th this year. We are actually not within the path of totality. We're about 95%, but that's still, if you are in
95% is
northern,
pretty significant.
yeah, if
In
you're in,
Buffalo, like the money zone?
yeah, I think Texas too. There's some
Yeah, but all the way up
big
through Buffalo,
parties going on in Texas about
Yeah,
it. Oh,
yeah.
it's
Eclipse party, man.
I thought about going
Same.
actually.
You said April 8th, right?
April 8th. But if you go up to northern New Hampshire, Maine, or Vermont, you'll be in the path of totality. Anyways, this nonprofit, they have extra funds to grant audio moths. And an audio moth is essentially just a data recording device, audio, that you put outside 2 days before the eclipse and 2 days after, and it just records everything it hears. So that is free for those in the path of totality. If they have extra or do not have enough signups, then they start releasing those audio moths for free to areas outside of the path of totality. I applied regardless, just to see if we could get one. Otherwise, they're $100. There's like 99 and some change. So,
As full disclosure, I also applied for one for the Children's Museum in Franklin.
yes, and I am, I guess I should disclose this, I am disclosing now. Since I've started working here, I've been collaborating with a biology teacher at Tri-County. We've gone to the sculpture park and done field trips and all sorts of things. So she actually sent this to me, and she would like to get her kids involved for this project. So I thought with Children's Museum, Tri-County, I want to get Franklin Public Schools on it, and if the commission could fund one and we all got one, we could hit a good chunk of Franklin for this endeavor.
I like that.
A part of the project too, like independent people, residents can become certified as like team leaders, so that would like be Megan with the gaggle of children, or you could sign up to be a data scientist, so then you would sit down and review it all, which is probably more of my
So
we'll
we
divide
could
and
become-
conquer back in that's what we'll do.
Sounds good, done.
But so there, I can send you all the link to it, and we can discuss it later as well if you want. But that's audio moth. So it's,
We could become certified audio moths.
you could.
I think it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah,
It's a
I mean, if it's
citizen
$100,
science
I'm
project.
happy
Yeah,
to be part of citizen science.
And then would we just use it
So we're
forever
voting
after
on
that?
spending $100.
No, you send it back. You send it back.
Oh,
Yeah, they
But
they
for
receive
5
it back.
days, you can be a citizen scientist and be part of this.
Exactly.
And then from what I read on it, they have data from 100 years ago, and they're going to be comparing this data to the data from
Yeah.
100 years ago, so it's
That's cool.
kind of exciting.
you didn't
So
even
we're
have
voting whether to
microphones
spend
in here.
$100?
How'd they do
I
that?
don't even know.
It's like $99.
Some
and
guy out there
change.
with a pencil.
Yeah, I'm sure they have. So do we want to take a quick vote if everyone's happy to?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes?
I approve spending $100.
A second.
Great. Jeff, you good?
Yes.
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds
Roger,
very cool.
yes. I mean, Roger's.
Yes.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
I'm
All right.
not trying to keep this, but just from the Del contract, just like, is there like a simple update, 1, 2 sentence? We
No.
have- is it-
So there's an
is
overall
the year-end report coming?
Yeah,
There was a
I
year-end?
have it. It's uploaded in your
Oh,
Google
okay.
Drive. There's been a decrease in invasive species, but actually an uptick of density in some of the mats, which is
Oh, really?
which is fascinating. So
Okay.
that
Wait,
might
increase or decrease?
increase of the density of the mats, of some water chestnut mats, but a decrease overall. So
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it'll be interesting to speculate. We're gonna put on our citizen scientist hat and
Yeah.
speculate why those are denser. They also proposed a new treatment. And I think we have a contract coming up, so maybe we discuss.
So less
Discuss
on
further
the
next
board
time.
than- So we're still very far away from ever stocking that.
Oh, yeah.
Correct?
Just quickly,
If I
Martha,
had
do
to
you have
be-
any, sorry.
A pessimist, I don't think it will happen in the near future.
We kind of figured that.
Michael, do you have
If
any
you dredged it, you might have something.
updates for the Friends of Franklin?
We had a meeting, and we talked about doing some cleanup in an upcoming weekend, but no definite plans yet.
Okay.
So I've heard.
Yeah, keep an eye out then.
I gotta get rid of some paper.
When you have a date and stuff, do you want to just send it to the full commission, just on line CC, in case anyone else wants to
Sure.
be involved as well, if they're not in the emails? I don't have anything relevant to update for, not relevant, anything big to update for master plan, so I'll leave it. And do you have any natural resource protection?
I do. Real quick, just 4 things.
Yes.
So I did
Just
get.
4 things.
Just 4 things. Sorry. Just 4 things. The more you make me laugh, the longer we stay. I did receive comments back from MAPC on OSRP, so my goal is to have all comments implemented in the next 30 days. I have to pick Jamie's brain to see if he wants me to re-present in front of town council. I don't think they want to sit through it all again, so I think after that we'll just submit it. B program. Again, just putting a plug, it is open. I will note that February 1st, the resident honorarium for those that have habitat, there are certain thresholds for habitat on the website. The registration opens, it's $400 per resident, and there are 2 residents that get chosen. Friends of Franklin Conservation Group is going to be the unbiased third party that's reviewing those habitats. This honorarium, I glossed over this part, is to be a stop on the tour at the end of the workshop. It is, being given in hopes that it helps compensate residents for already doing such a great job and to go back into their habitat. Met today actually with DPW and Rec Department for Earth Day. They are doing their Earth Day celebration on April 20th from 9 to noon. I would like to request that the commission and Rec Department and DPW just join forces. That is at Beaver Pond. Ryan mentioned reaching out to the Children's Museum of Franklin to do kids events, so passing along that message.
Yep.
And then, I couldn't read my handwriting for a second. I did get a small grant for the Friends of Franklin Conservation Group. It's a total of $750. I will be meeting with Pat tomorrow to go over
Yay.
that, and hopefully,
That reminds me,
get some supplies.
sorry.
Yep.
We did, another thing we talked about at our meeting, Friends of Franklin Conservation, was we might want to support a Earth Week.
Yeah. Natalie, do you remember Natalie? She did the sculpture park. We talked about Earth Month, which is kind of what extrapolated into B program. So that's where that went. So I would like to get either B program participants or FFC involved in that. And I think it would be really fun to tie in Arbor Day with Earth Day and just have Franklin Earth Month. And then you just have rotating events every weekend.
That's fun.
You should talk with Pat about that tomorrow.
Got it.
Yes.
What is the Children's Museum of
We should adjourn the meeting.
I know, do you want to? We can adjourn the meeting and talk
There you
about that offline.
Sorry, Megan.
No. It'll be a great conversation. I'm very excited to tell you about it. Motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second, third,
Second. And how does everyone vote?
I vote close.
Aye.
close.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good night, Roger. Thanks.
Night, Roger.
So it's 30
Right.
seconds.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
You don't sound well, son.
Pat's wife and I are opening a Children's Museum in Franklin. We are an official
Oh.
501c3 nonprofit